Alright, we have to do one more day of Frozen Orb. It's very unfortunate. But it is what it is. So my second Sorc, I didn't have enough time to push it to level 100 and do the glyphs. Even though it goes like extremely fast, like the leveling is completely out of control actually. Like I just needed like, I think it was like 2 hours until I was level 80. But I still have to do the nightmare dungeons. And the level 80 tune, I mean, I think it's level 78. And it can already farm tier 100 nightmare dungeons without even having the level 80 ancestral gear. So as soon as it hits level 80, I just put Frozen Orb on that tune and do the nightmare dungeons. Then I will hopefully have a new build on Friday. So today is still gonna be good old Lightning Spear Frozen Orb shenanigans. Even though it's starting to get boring. Maybe I want to try to get like some... So maybe there should just be another sword category, like non-lightning spear builds. And then you would be like, what's the highest tier pit you can do without lightning spear? And what's the, fastest clear in Infernal Hordes which you can do without lightning spear? Because lightning spear is definitely... I'm not saying that it's yeah, maybe it's like, I would say it's like 20% too strong. Maybe 30%. Maybe it should get like a 20 to 30% nerf. And then it would, I feel like, fit very well into the current power level of the Sorc. It is just a little bit too strong at this point. Maybe they should just, maybe you would have to nerf the cooldown reduction from the orb explosions to remove the aspect of, what is it called? The aspect of Frozen Orbit from it. So that could be a good idea to nerf it. Then you would basically cut the cooldown reduction by 1/3, yes, but you could still do triple Masterwork crit on the amulet. So you would still be at 66% of the lightning spears coming out. And in exchange for that, you would open up an aspect slot because the Frozen Orbit wouldn't work with that interaction anymore. Maybe that would be a good way to nerf it. Is it normal to get an Uber Unique in Infernal Hordes? Well, it's possible. The drop chances are very low, but they can drop everywhere. So it's, I mean, I would say it's uncommon, yes, but it's definitely possible. I mean, I haven't found an Uber Unique outside of boss farming yet. But, I've heard, like, seen a couple of people who actually did that. So the drop chance is like very, very low, right? It's like 0.0001% or something like that. So it's like really, really low, but it is existent. So you can always find an Uber Unique anywhere. For single, it is always the 200, so whenever, if you talk about damage, the 200 version is always the best. So the pure focus on Lightning Spear just does the most damage. If that's what you're looking for, you don't want to play Wand and Focus. But you also gotta prepare to spend a lot of resources to get that build going. So it depends if you have Uber Uniques and access to like highly Masterwork gear and stuff like that. You don't, you're not gonna be happy with that build. Same with this build. This build requires Uber Uniques and it requires like Fists of Fate and stuff like that. So good Fists of Fate. So really, what it comes down to is your kind of overall power level, what gear you have access to. It's impossible to say if a build is good or not. Do you have it properly masterworked already? What's your cooldown reduction? I mean, that's alright. I mean, you can try to go 200 stuff with that, but I would rather get more. I mean, because if you have it on your focus, then you're gonna lose like 10%. So that's not gonna be enough to feed 200 weapon. So if you want to have 200 weapon, you really need at least 2 Masterworking crits on Shaco and 2 Masterworking crits on Tal-Rasha Ring, and the Tal-Rasha Ring also needs greater affix cooldown. That's kind of the requirement if you want to go for 200 weapon. And if you don't want to go for 200 weapon, probably the most boss damage will be... I mean, probably not the one with Lucky Hit, honestly. Probably just play regular gloves with critical strike damage, because you lose a lot of damage by playing Lucky Hit in this setup. I mean, you can play this with a 0.2 reduction Winterglass. It's not like the end of the world. How do I only spawn stupid spires while I have only all like I have all Hellborne and I only get spires? I mean, you can always play the want and focus variants, but I really don't recommend to go for two-handed unless you really have 50 to 55% cooldown reduction without a focus. I would not recommend do that. Like your lightning spear basically I'm not even gonna it's not even about general cooldown reduction. Like your lightning spear should have like a 5-second cooldown, maybe a 6-second cooldown at worst. Your lightning spear is above that, you're not gonna be able to run like those high DPS builds. You will still rely on casting frozen orbs. It really doesn't matter. I mean, in this build you don't cast frozen orbs, so it makes sense to play ice blades because they give you cooldown reduction. And they don't block an enchantment slot where you can use Frozen Orb enchantment. But also if you struggle with cooldown, you can also always use Ice Blades enchantment. But in the end, all these things are fairly equal. Like it really comes down to your gear in the end. I mean, if you look, my Lightning Spear has a 6.4 seconds cooldown. And that's already on the high end. So if you're somewhere at like 8 to 10 seconds, you're not gonna get like permanent Lightning Spear. You really need a very low cooldown on that one. So if you have Orb on bar, it makes no sense to put Ice Blades on your enchant. If you're casting Orbs, the Winter Glass is gonna spawn Ice Blades. The Ice Blades enchantment is just a waste. It's not gonna stack. you can only have one source of secondary conjurations. So as long as you're casting Frozen Orbs regularly, remove that Ice Blades enchantment. It's not gonna do anything. It's literally wasted. The Winter Glass is already casting your Ice Blades anyway. And Frozen Orb is gonna help you much with cooldown reduction and stuff like that. Because it also accounts for the Conjuration cooldown decrease. You wanna see my items? This pants I have to... the worst pants ever. Like, I'm just too lazy to make new ones because it just doesn't matter. This is all garbage. Where have you found your best high stat gear? I only play Infernal Hordes pretty much. But it really doesn't matter where you are. Like, there's absolutely no difference in the gear drops whatsoever, no matter where you are. So every single location where you are, as soon as something drops, there's exactly the same chance for whatever it may be. Except for like the end chest on this Infernal Hordes has higher chance on the seasonal uniques basically. But besides that, it really doesn't matter. So the highest amount of items you will probably get with Infernal Hordes tier 8 if you open the item chest at the end and fill your stash. But besides that, it's probably going to be Hell Tides where you get the most items. Oh, did they shadow nerf Hellborns? I kind of have the feeling they shadow nerfed this because literally they are not spawning. Like, I get none. This is so weird. Like, how can I be at 246 at wave 9 when I always pick Hellborne? Like, I think it's bugged. I think they patched it. Oh, Jesus. It's so weird. Like, usually I have like 500 to 600. Like, with even... I guess I got like 4 Hellborne perks. I usually have like 800, 900 ever or something like that. And there's literally no Hellborne spawning. Like, there's none. Look, they not spawn. Like, not a single one. Yeah, I think they shadow patched something here, really. They might just have killed Infernal Hordes. I mean, I'm gonna do a few more. Maybe this is just like pure RNG. But they might just have removed this content from the game. Because if you just get 300, you know what? That reward's literally not worth playing this. You might as well just go fucking pit runs. I mean, I haven't read the blue post or anything, but literally there's nothing spawning here. No, I'm not unlucky. I have extremely good perks. Like, I played this a lot. Like, this would be 800 to 900. Trading is disabled, yes. I mean, I will see if that's just RNG, but it's extremely strange. Because I literally had no Hellborn spawn the last 2 rounds. And that doesn't make any sense. They used to spawn like crazy. No, it doesn't scale with splintering aspect. Why would it? I mean, it increases your lucky hit chance and then it basically decreases your cooldowns. Pretty much what it does. So yeah, I mean, I have to double check this. How do you end, like somebody, I have no clue how you open this end board. Like, I don't know, some people can open like an end view of this Infernal Hordes. I have no clue how to do that. So you can see the perks at the very end. I don't see the button or anything for that. No clue how to do that. Tap. And then. Map. Where is it? Not for me. Maybe it only shows if it's not finished. Like who would even, like, who has the idea of opening the map in Infernal Hordes? Like, that placement alone doesn't make any sense. Why would you open the map? Like, I have been playing this for, like, I don't know, 100 runs, and I never opened the map. Like, why would I do this? There's literally nothing on the map, which I care about. How do you get barrier all the time? Protection passive triggers from casting lightning spears. I don't think it's better. It's different. It requires even more gear, and I don't think it's substantially better, no, but it feels like more fun to play. Me, at least. But I generally don't give advice what build is better than another, because it's always very highly dependent on gear. And what access to gear do you have? So... I don't even know if I need this. Since trading is disabled for, like, who knows how long, you know what? You might just stash some 1GA items, because... Well, I'm not, like, crazy. I only have, like, very little gear available. Alright, so... Let's see. Let's check this again. Like, I had 3 or 4 times Hellborne, and I saw maybe 5 Hellborne the whole run. So, that's really... I don't know. So if I press tab, I don't see any perks here. Maybe you see it after the run. I don't know when you would see it, honestly. It's like some hidden tech. It's hidden Blizzard mechanics. Like, if you want to find something, you have to press 3 different hotkeys, which are not undocumented anywhere. Like, there's no tooltips whatsoever. And instead of just, you know, putting it here on the right on the screen and just put it there, no. It's like hidden somewhere in the map or wherever it is hidden. I mean, I cannot even see it. I mean, we will see. See where the Hellborne go. But I think they might have just shadow nerfed Infernal Hordes because it was too rewarding. And that's literally the worst thing they could do, because people are having mad fun with this. And if you now, like, cut the rewards in, like, less than half, it's just gonna be the worst thing. Like, I wouldn't understand it, because everybody's having fun. And now, it seems like they reduced the spawn rate of Hellborns, which is just... You never want to reduce the spawn rate of monsters ever in an ARPG. Never ever reduce the amount of monsters. Just increase it. Right. So, now it shows on the left. Okay, so it shows on the left when the run is not finished, it looks like. Well, you farm tier 8s with the objective to get masterworking materials and gear. Pretty much. I mean, what else do you farm for? Like, what do you farm Pit for? What do you farm Helltide for? No, it shows all the time if you press tab. But I didn't know that. Like, thanks for that hint, because I would have never opened the map. Like, why would I press tab in Infernal Hordes? Like, makes no sense. That's the problem I have with, like, these tooltips. Like, just put me a note on the right. Just give me, like, the, you know, the key, like the icon of the key there, and just write, press tab to show stats or something like that. Just give me a tooltip. Because I'm not... How am I supposed to know that I have to press tab? And I literally don't do it because it makes no sense to me. Because I don't need a map. So here you can see it basically. Yeah. Junk, junk, and even more junk. Yeah, but there's no pit ladder. I mean... So, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I feel like, you know, if there would be a leaderboard for pit, it would be interesting. But it's not really my kind of content. Because I kind of dislike the power level scaling of the pit a lot. Because these extended boss fights, it's just, I don't know. Not really for me. I don't really enjoy that. I should just look at the screen and... Okay, it's a waller. Like, these elites are, like, super strange. Like, they literally never spawn. And if they spawn, they have, like, very, very weird abilities. I am using overflowing energy. But you can use both. It's actually not such a huge difference, I feel like. Wow. Okay, now it's like a tab. It's like so weird, this UI. Now there's like a left arrow. So I can check the other stuff. Like, I don't get this. I don't get this UI. I don't get the UI designers of Blizzard. They're just horrible. I don't know, something feels weird. Like, also the overall spawn rate, it just seems to be lower. Yeah, the Paragon bot is the same. Paragon bots usually, like, do not matter at all for Sorg. Like, literally, as long as you put, like, your damage glyphs, you're good. And you always put the same glyphs anyway. So I feel like you could also, you know, you might as well just use one single Paragon bot for all builds which are not fire. Because it really doesn't matter. In the end, you always play 7 or 8 glyphs. You can either play 7 glyphs with defensive focus, or you can play 8 glyphs with less defensive focus. And they're always the same. Like, it literally doesn't matter how you play. I mean, I've been literally using the same Paragon bot since Season 1. It is super super depressing how little the difference in Sorcerer's Paragon bots is, really. Because you just literally take every glyph, which has like a %X damage. And then you know, if you do like any kind of conjuration-based stuff, you just use Conjurer Glyph. And if not, you know, you might as well just use Enchanter Glyph or something like that. So you just basically use one build-specific glyph, and the other ones are always going to be the same. And even if you mess it up, like, you're gonna miss out on like 10% damage or something like that. So it is really very, very low of importance, the whole Paragon story. If you make the same build and you neither have Shaco, you don't have Shaco, you don't make this build. Just go to the beginner version. Now I cannot even see the boons. They seem to be hidden now. The build planner is, yeah, is in the description. Because I don't play the maximum lightning spear damage build, I play a different build. I wanna be as mobile as possible, and frozen orbs just target way faster than lightning spears. They freeze instantly, and also they reduce cooldowns on lightning spears, so it's a different build focus. This is not the highest damage build, and I'm not interested in that, because, you know, I don't need the damage for this content. If you want to go like pit pushing or something like that, this is not the optimal build. Have you been shadow banned? I don't know what you're talking about, but probably not. Okay, so... this is so weird. Like, why does it show me comp as affixes? This is always the same, right? Okay, so... now it shows on page 1. It just didn't show before. Now let's see how many Hellborns will spawn. Well, it's not pointless if you want to know, like, if you did a good run, what perks you have. Right, there was... but literally last run there was no Hellborn spawning. Like, this time there is Hellborn spawning for whatever reason. I don't know. So this time it's like normal, like Hellborn spawn like all over the place all the time. But last time literally they didn't spawn at all. It was very strange. It's not slightly faster attack speed, it's because of the attack speed breakpoints. And yes, first of all, yes, it's faster attack speed, and you really have no reason to use a sword, because it's not gonna benefit you in any way if you wanna, because your damage mainly comes from lightning spears, and besides that, nobody has attack speed breakpoints for 1.1 weapons. And probably nobody will ever do them, because it makes basically no point to play a sword or a mace on Sorc because of the lower attack speed. So first of all, it would be way too much work to do the attack speed breakpoints, because those weapons are generally worse. Because if you want to go for slow attack speed, then you would use the stuff, because then you can get an aspect with more magnitude. But since with the one-handed weapon with the just slower attack speed, you really lose all the benefit from the lower attack speed, because you cannot put like an amplified aspect on that. So I feel like these weapons don't have any room. And the only difference is like a very, very minor change in implicit. So, I mean, we're talking about 15% critical strike damage versus whatever it is, right? 20% vulnerable damage. So that is literally doesn't matter at all. So I feel like these weapons will not be used in any builds. And I didn't check it myself in the very beginning that they actually have a different attack speed. I thought they were all 1.2 attack speed. But since they are only 1.1... I mean, they are dirt cheap if you want to buy them, and if you don't care about attack speed breakpoints, and if you want to trade, you can get them very cheap because nobody wants them. But yeah, giving up the benefit of more attack speed, playing Want and Focus, which is what you basically play Want and Focus for, right? You play it for more attack speed, and then it makes no sense to choose a slower weapon with that. It just doesn't fit. See, now the Hellborne are spawning as regular. I don't know what was wrong with that last run. Again, a build where you don't have to spam Frozen requires very, very high gear. That is very, very late game. So really, you need double Masterworking crits on your cooldown reductions. You need double Masterworking crits on your attack speed. You really need very, very strong gear to be able to do this without casting Frozen Orbs. It's nothing you want to approach if you are not very high geared. Casting Frozen Orb is a way better option. And it's also not like a shame at all. It works just fine. Like you can You can beat like Infernal Hordes tier 8 and all the tormented bosses and everything with casting Frozen Orbs, absolutely no problem. The Lightning Spears are still gonna out-damage Frozen Orb though, even in that case. If you get your Lightning Spear to like a 6-second cooldown at some point, you basically don't need to cast Frozen Orbs anymore. But it also works best if you have Fists of Fate. It works without Fists of Fate, but not so good. It still works, but it works better with Fists of Fate, definitely. So now there's... Okay, now it's splitting Boons and Banes. Look, that was the perfect stagger there. Perfect stagger. All grouped up, staggered, dying. I mean, this build is, honestly, this build is still very far behind the damage of two-handed weapon. It is very far behind. But it is just enough. I don't need to build so much overkill damage. If you want to carry 4 people, then it's a different story. But if you want to solo this is like absolutely easy. And even though, like, right now trading is disabled, but if trading gets enabled again, right, and you want to build this build with a two-handed weapon, you have to go... I mean, you might as well go for one without greater affixes. Because just buying a greater affix critical strike damage two-handed stuff right now will cost you like 2 billion gold, maybe 3 already. And going with Wand and Focus is gonna cost you nothing. So it's a significant difference there as well. Yeah, that exactly. Like if you really want the two-handed stuff work, like on the Mikuna level, right? You really have like you have uber uniques with greater affixes. You have everything triple masterworking crit properly, right? So all your like chances, all your attack speeds and crits and everything. So that is really an extreme. Like I could never even reach that. Like even if I would try now, I wouldn't reach that state at the end of this season. So much work and resources is required to get something like that. Right? Maxing out Lightning Spear does nothing because the damage in the build doesn't come from Lightning Spear. It comes from the aspect of splintering energy. So it doesn't make any sense to put any points in Lightning Spear whatsoever. Is he touched? Is anybody ever gonna use that? Probably not, right? Yes. Well, it depends on the amount of luck required. If you have infinite resources, it is basically just calculation, right? So, I mean, I have bad RNG, and you know, if I hit something twice, I'm already happy. Like I will never remaster work. Like for example, this ring, I will never remaster work. This I know it has like potent warding, which is like a completely wasted stat, right? But I would never redo this ring. Because it takes me like 2 to 3 hours of farming just to get it back at double crit on cooldown reduction, right? And I know it has only 17.5%, but I don't have a 20. And I really don't go for maxed gear. Same with the Winter Glass, right? So I cannot afford a +4 Conjuration Mastery with maxed cooldowns. And I masterworked this, and I didn't even want to triple quit cooldowns. Like, that is actually bad. I just wanted to hit that once, basically, and I wanted the points in Conjuration Mastery. But I will never redo this, because it is just mind-blowing how much resources you need. And it's not even about the masterworking materials, right? Right now you have the bottleneck, which is the white materials, like iron chunks, 3,800. That's gonna be good for like 150 masterworking rerolls on weapons or jewelry. 150 is nothing. Nothing. And getting these back, you have to repetitively farm Infernal Hordes and, you know, open the material chest, open the item chest, stash all your items, teleport to town, like, you know, get your items out of the stash, salvage them, and go back and forth. Like, it's just such a terrible process that you have like bottleneck with these white materials right now. And that basically makes me not want to rework my gear at all. So I don't strive for like these perfection gear stories anymore. It's absolutely something I'm not doing. Like, same with my Shaco, right? I have like cooldown reduction twice and armor. You know what? That's fine. Is it garbage? Yes. I mean, I have 2 cooldown reduction. I'm happy with that. Is armor like a completely wasted roll? Yes, it is. Would it be much better for it to be maximum life? Yes, it would be. But I'm not gonna redo it. And this is the only one I got lucky. Like, I have 3 crits on damage reduction. That is really awesome. But that's the only lucky one I got there. And yeah, those boots are, I mean, double crit on crit damage is good, but you know what? If you want to like go very, very hard, you want to have 3 crits here. And these weapons, right? This is critical strike. I only have min roll. So this is min roll crit damage. This is min roll crit damage. Like, all my build gear is literally min roll. This is min roll crit damage. So I only have min rolls, but I'm not gonna redo it. Because it's just, you know, I can get like a 15% more damage maybe in the end or something like that. But really, is it gonna change anything at all? Probably gonna be 1 pit tier I could push higher if I wanted to do. But in general, I feel like striving for perfect gear in D4 is not an enjoyable process, right? There's games which do this way better. Like in Path of Exile, like for example, the crafting methods, like striving for perfect gear there, the design is just way better. Same with Last Epoch, like getting perfect gear there is just much better by design. And since you cannot redo like your stat ranges here, right? In Path of Exile, you can always like slam divine orbs, which are very expensive, but you can slam them on your items. It's gonna change all the numbers. I cannot do this in D4. I can basically, yeah, I can do tempering, and then I'm just gonna brick my item, right? So what I need to do is, I need to get a new base item, do the tempering again, you know, spend all those resources, and there's just way too much RNG involved for me, if you ask me. The amount of RNG in the crafting in the game right now is toxic. It's way too much. And it makes you basically natively want to settle for lower. Because the risk is like so much higher than the reward. Yeah. I mean, mobile games obviously make that for a different reason, right? You have to spend cash to get the perfect item rolls. But I just feel like that you have to have a decent risk reward system, right? So let's say let's say you have this item, right? And it has 126 crit damage. So my reward would be 40% crit damage. If you take my entire damage, my entire crit damage is 800%. So you add 40% crit damage to that. That is, what is that? That is roughly 5% increase, right? So it increases my crit multiplier by 5%. So it would be basically a 5% damage increase for me, which is actually not that bad. But you know, the risk bricking this item is like so freaking high. Because I cannot go back, right? If it would be with enchanting, you know, you can try. And in the end, if you don't hit it, you can keep the old stat. That would be okay. But since the result is the item is unusable, the risk is just too high, I feel like, for a random system. If it would be at least, you know, reroll, that you could reroll the same affix, right? Let's say you are You're lucky with tempering, right? You hit your crit damage the first temper, and you hit your whatever you want to have, like Frozen Orb cast twice the first temper. And you have 5 attempts left. If you could use your attempt then to reroll the implicit on one, that's a good RNG, right? Because you know what, you got lucky, you hit your tempering early, and now you can use the remaining ones to improve your stats. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it gets worse, it gets worse. But that's still much better than the item to get bricked. And right now, you know what? If you hit your items with the first 2 tempers, you're still not gonna redo it unless you have a better one already. Because you know what? Chances are like more than 50% that the item is gonna brick, and chances that the item are actually getting better is like maybe 10% or so, right? So the risk-reward ratio on this system is just absolutely horrible. So they really gotta work on being able to target your stats and improve them, even though if it would be very expensive. It doesn't matter what it costs, right? Just give me like, you know, let me pay 5,000 Nice Iron and allow me to reroll a stat. For 5k, like Nice Iron, which takes probably like 2 hours to farm them, just allow me to reroll 1 stat. Just completely random reroll. You know, can get better, can get worse. And then if I have a perfect item, I actually have a journey. Because I lose the risk of killing my item. And I have an incentive to keep farming and keep farming that gear. Because I actually have the chance to improve my item to a certain degree without destroying it. And that is the same way it works with other games, right? That is how it works with Path of Exile. If you know how to craft in Path of Exile, you're not going to destroy your item, because, you know, with certain methods you can imprint it for, like, a lot of money, or you can, you know, you can protect, like, modifiers which cannot be re-rolled, and then you can just keep re-rolling until you got what you want, right? But the methods, most methods are not going to destroy the item. And that's the only thing I don't like about the system. The destruction of an item. And even that the chance for destroying an item is also like extremely high. Like even getting the 2 tempers you want on your base item is already less than 50% or something like that, right? So if you want to hit crit damage, that's actually a 25%. And then also, if you want to hit whatever you want to have, right? Lightning Spear to cast twice. That's another 33%. So that's 25 times 33%. So that's somewhere around 9%. So, like, technically you need 2 base items to just hit 2 tempers you want. So the chances are just terrible for what you're getting. Because the rolls are, like, so different. And I feel like the system should be different. I feel like you should be able to just choose what stat you want. Like, if I want to have, you know, crit damage on that, on my item, I should just choose craft crit damage, and then it should roll from like 5% to 50%. Right, just give it a very high range, but let me at least choose it. And then give me the RNG, but give me like a good form of RNG. Yeah, I mean, exactly. If you get a 3 greater affix item, that's already so freaking rare. And then you're gonna give me the... Well, first of all, you know what? There's chances you're not even gonna hit the tempers you need at all, and you can just throw it in the trash. And then it's... Oh yeah, and by the way, if you hit it, I'm just gonna give you 2 min rolls, and you're not gonna re-roll it anyway, because you're gonna kill the item in the end. So... that is really something they have to work on. Like, getting the good rolls on your items if you want that for, like, a high price, but not so much risk. What is going on here? A lot of mobs spawning. How many pits are equal to 7 difficulty? Probably tier 101. Somewhere around that range. Like, tier 7 is not very hard. Yeah, the level doesn't really say so much. It's more like the power level. So I would say it's somewhere around like a level 100 pit. Yeah, that's what I just said, right? Select the temper you want and give me a random stat range. And then, you know, that gives you this moment. If your first temper hits a decent range, you will be like, oh my god, this is freaking awesome. Now I have like 6 tries to retemper my second stat. Right? And then you're gonna hit, like, let's say you're gonna hit 80% of the maximum. You will be like, oh, I have 80%. That's actually pretty good. You know, do I take the risk of re-rolling it? And you know what? You might end up at a lower value, but your item is still gonna be there. Right? You still can use it. And we're talking about, you know, a couple of percentage points in damage difference there, right? So it's not like the end of the world. But that's a much better RNG. And also other games do it like that, basically. Most other games do it the same way, right? Like Last Epoch does it the same way. It's basically about the range of specific attributes. If it's like tier 4, tier 5, tier 6 or whatever. Path of Exile, same story. You want to hit tier 1 or tier 2 attributes. So it's most of the time always about the ranges. Like there's always like relatively easy methods of getting the stats you want, and then the min-maxing comes with the high roll, actually, how high it rolls. Has also like this been like in Diablo 2, right? It doesn't have been like this in Diablo 3, but in Diablo 2 it was pretty much the same story. Like you had the affixes and you would want to get the good rolls on them, right? For example, like I think the max damage, the percent damage in D2 had like a range of 200 to 300% or something like that. And it was easy to get the affix, but get it at a high roll was not. Yeah, that's a pretty decent item, right? And imagine you brick this with tempering. How bad does that feel, man? But I mean, I guess you gotta accept that this system is like still pretty raw. And I'm pretty sure they're gonna improve on it, right? They gave us like the, you know, the little quick fix that you can temper it multiple times if it has greater affixes, which is already a good way in the right direction. I mean, it's not what's needed, but if you have a 3 greater affix item, at least your chances of initially completely bricking it are like much lower, right? But yeah, it's just missing some kind of a real crafting system. Like what we have right now is not a crafting system at all, right? Like the crafting system in D4 is like, what is it even? It is like one of the lowest magnitude crafting systems ever built in a game. Basically, it's even like if you would say, yeah, it has to be easy because console players can just click buttons. That's absolutely not true, right? But the system is very minimal, right? You literally have two ways of rolling, and those are just RNG. So the system is horrible from a design perspective. But we are still happy because it's much better than nothing, which is what we had before, right? But I guess we can agree on that this system is still going to be improved. Like if they don't improve the system with the expansion, I will be very sad, actually. How did I even... Oh no, I have Hellbornes. So, the cooldown reduction of overflowing energy is for all. It's for currents, it's for lightning speed, it basically helps all. And it is just about, again, overkill damage. I don't need the extra damage from Burst Mastery, so I choose overflowing energy. That's pretty much the story. But it helps with all cooldowns, really. Unstable Currents cooldown is also a point. Ice Blades cannot really do it by themselves. Even with overflowing energy, I don't get 100% sometimes. It depends on how many elites spawn, right? If you have Hellborne, it's no problem, because there's enough elites to use overflowing energy on. But in general, it just helps with the cooldowns. Because it just reduces all cooldowns, which also procs on the lightning spears, of course. It's random, like you in a tier 8 run, it depends. Like if you have 500 ether, you get like, I would say like somewhere in between 2 and 5. 5 would be a very high roll, 2 would be relatively low. Yeah, that would probably be good, right? The stub slot. But I don't think that's gonna happen. But who knows? Sword basically has so many aspects, right? And you can never use all the aspects you want. Because right now you're like forced into playing so many uniques. I mean, even if you don't have Uber uniques, you still have to play so many of them. And if you have Uber uniques, you're locked into so many unique slots already that you cannot really play your aspects. Same with the amulet, right? You're locked into like a unique amulet with any lightning spear build. So yeah, I feel like they shoot like above the roof with the whole uniques. I mean, it's nice that we have new uniques, and I like especially like the 200 stuffs are pretty cool. I feel like the changes to them, but still, I feel like you're using too many of them at this point. So you cannot run Starless in this build because you're not using resource. I mean, in this variant I'm playing right now, at least. You can only play Starless in builds where you spend resource, so where you're actively casting Frozen Orb. No, you never want to switch out cooldown reduction in this build, really. You just can't do that. It's just about the Lightning Spear cooldown. If you switch, if you remove Tar Russia, your Lightning Spear cooldown is gonna go up to like 9 seconds probably. It goes up to 8 seconds from 6.4, so that's such a huge difference there, really. The highest cap has definitely the Mekuna, like any kind of 200 stuff variant with very good gear. Like this will never do the top tier damage. It's using wand and focus. You are basically trading off half of your lightning spear damage, which is the main damage you're doing, and you're trading it off for 130% 130% aspect and some attack speed, and the attack speed you don't even need. I mean, you need it to play more fluent, but it's not gonna change your top end damage, right? So definitely the 200 stuff variant tops out at the highest damage, like 100%. I mean, I could probably go to like tier 140 pit or something like that with this if I change my pants to T-Ball's Will, and but that's probably gonna be the ceiling for this, with not playing a 200 weapon. How does it long? I don't farm, I trade. So, I basically will never target farm gear in this game at all, because it is just not worth the time investment. I usually sell all my boss materials and just trade for the gear I need. So my winter glass, for example, I bought for like, I think 6 billion gold or something like that. And I feel like trading is just... For me, trading is part of like RPGs. For me, it's like an important factor. And if you cannot trade in a game, it's not so interesting for me. Because just target farming the stuff you need just takes so long and it's frustrating. So if I only had access to like boss farming and I want to get like a winter glass, and I just cannot drop it, it just gets super frustrating. And that's why I just trade my stuff. Right, I just go farm, get my gear. Like, I sometimes get very valuable items. And I don't know what the price for the stones is, but I have like 100 now. So if I can sell them, that's probably like 2.5 billion or so at this point. Then I just use that money to buy my gear I want. So it is just, for me, it is just part of this game, or of games like this. You have to be able to trade. If you don't trade, and there's like some kind of a solo self-found mode, right? For example, Path of Exile has a solo self-found mode, which literally does nothing but you can show off your solo self-found. And like last Epoch probably did it like the best, where you have in the solo self-found mode just, you know, triple the drop chance for everything or something like that. If you incentivize that, that is okay for me. But I feel like you need the trading in a game like this. And it's mind-blowing to me how trading is not part of this game at all. I feel like, you know, it's like 2024, and you cannot give me like a goddamn auction house in this game. Like, you probably need to pay like 2 developers for like 2 months or 1 month even, and they just build you that system, right? It cannot be so difficult. Like, literally, it's a listing, and every item has an ID, and you just move the item from, you know, you just move the ID from one database. You know, you just basically change the ID of the player or something like that. Like, from a technology point of view, it's not difficult to create a trading system or like an auction house system or whatever system in a game like this, right? It just makes no point that it's not in here. And yeah, now trade is disabled, right, because of dupes. But I just feel like that is not something you can actually do at this point. And, you know, Path of Exile 2 is going to launch with the trading system. Last Epoch launched with the trading system. And every other game will launch with the trading system. Even Diablo 3 launched with the trading system. Yes, they screwed it up because it was for real money. But it had a decent trading system, right? It was actually the perfect trading system because you could list shit and you could buy it and you could search for it. Like, that's all you need. You don't need any special stuff for trading. Like, literally just give me, you know, list my gear, search for it, buy it. Like, it doesn't have to be so complicated. And that is just, if D4 had an I feel like if D4 had a trading system inbuilt, it would have such a bigger audience there. Because a lot of people stop playing this game because they are unable to reach high power levels. Because the grind is too frustrating, or because they hit a brick wall, like they get killed all the time. And if there would be trading enabled, what happens is, you know, usually after like 2 or 3 weeks, not even, let's make it 1 or 2 weeks into the season, right? Gear becomes super affordable to the average player. So right now, if you have, let's make it 5 billion gold, right? 5 billion gold you can probably farm in a single day by just spamming Hell Tides and selling the blood and the Varshan materials. Like, if you play an 8-hour day, you're probably gonna end up with like 5 to 6 million gold net income. Just by selling the boss materials you find. And you know, maybe selling like 1 or 2 greater affix items you find on the way. And then you just need 1 day, basically, and you can perfectly gear your character. It's not going to be perfectly geared. It's going to be 1 greater affix geared. You're going to have all the uniques you need with okay rolls, not with god rolls, but with okay rolls. And you know what? You can play the build you like, and it's going to be fun. And without trading enabled, I mean, there is trading, but through external websites. So the entry level of trading on an external website is fairly high. You know, there's advertisements on the website. It's annoying to, you know, having to communicate with other players, add them to the friend list, invite them, then trade them, remove them from the, like, it's a horrible process, right? So we do it because there's really nothing better, but it's absolutely not enjoyable. Like, if I wouldn't have to do it, hell no, I wouldn't do it. But for me, it's the only way to get the gear I need. Especially if I want to make other builds, like now, if I want to make a Chain Lightning build and stuff like that, I have to get the gear. So I have to buy it. And I feel like that is something which, especially for the casual players, right? The main audience of this game is casual players. So, what do casual players actually like to do? Like, they like to trade. Don't get me wrong, like, they don't like to blast Helltide all day and farm loot. It would be much more, it's much more interesting for casual players to just go into like an auction house and, you know, scroll for the gear. What do you think why World of Warcraft is so goddamn successful? You know what? Half the players are standing in the auction house for half the day. Because that's what's actually fun. Like, you sell your stuff, like you farm, like, whatever, like a couple of materials, right? And then you go to the auction house and you sell some stuff, you get some gold, then you're happy, oh nice, I got this gold, now I can buy this nice BOE item, which is legendary, and it gives me like a 5% damage increase. Like, it's just such a good system by design to enable trading. And the game is like missing this. I mean, I don't think you can reuse like any... I don't think you can reuse the trading system of D3 or D4. I think that is like 10 years difference in code bases. But I mean, I've been working in software development for 20 years of my life. I'm like a product owner. I have employees which do software development, and just from like the technology point of view, like a game like this is fairly simple, right? So you just see it like this. You basically have a huge database table which stores all the items. And then at every item there's like an ID, which is the player it belongs to, and then there's another ID, which is the slot where it is. So it's in the stash, or it's in your mainnet, or in your offhand. And that's literally like 3 values in the database. And then if you want to sell an item, you literally just have to, you know, change those 2 values and exchange some gold. So from a programming point of view, it's not like you have to invent like a huge system. It is really not that complicated to build something like this. Right? And from the UI, I don't think it's so complicated to build a goddamn trading UI, because you already have like all the, you know, you can view an item, right? So just making a list with items where you can hover on and search for the items. We already have search functionality in the stash. So the items are like the parameters of the items exist. They are tagged already, so you can search the slots. The functionality already exists, right? So it just somebody has to build that goddamn shit. And you know, it's just, if you would give me like a team of developers, like give me 2 developers, I would probably implement the system within like 2 or 3 weeks. Because it can't really be that complicated. And I don't understand why they don't do this. And I feel like it has something to do with design, and not with, you know, the decision. Like, not with difficulty implementing a trading system. There's got to be something different to them not implementing that. And I don't know what that may be. But for some reason, they're holding it back. Maybe, you know, with great company, like with big companies, decisions are not made in a logical way, right? Decisions are often made based on research. You know, and if somebody like in the research department, you know, read too many like studies about whatever, like psychological studies or whatever kind of bullshit, which says, no, we don't want to put trading in the game. We want players to play the game. We don't want them to trade. We want them to interact with the content we're making. We don't want them to stay in town and play. We don't want them to build like all these trade bot and stuff like that. So what I'm saying, I think it's probably more like a design decision that there's no trading in the game. And that is what's boring me a little bit. And then the whole story with the armory, right? People want the armory or the loadout slot, or however you want to call that, right? That's so much more complicated than implementing trading. Like this whole Paragon stuff, right? Respecking a Paragon board programmatically, like redoing a skill tree programmatically. Like, these functionality is not there yet, right? So they would have to redo all that stuff. They would have to like create some kind of a database where you store like the loadouts, and then you would store like the points in the database. Whenever you upgrade, you know, the Paragon boards, you would have to make sure all these databases match the new updates. You know, whenever. So there's much more to building a system like that than just, you know, moving one item from one player to another in exchange for gold. Like, that's a very, very simple task from like a data view, like from a data point of view. No, Icefall Legendary does not boost the Lightning Spear damage. It just boosts Frozen Orb damage. And I don't... I mean, I'm still using it in this build because I have the room, right? So I'm using Icefall because I'm playing 7 boards right now. You can also remove Icefall and remove some damage reduction. Like, you can remove this damage reduction and this extra life. And I have this... So I basically choose like a lot of extra life nodes here. and then I stripped one board away, and I used the Icefall because it just boosts my Frozen Orb damage a little bit more, because I'm still like hybriding this build. But this is technically not the strongest node. I just use it because I have basically leftover slots, and I have nothing else I can get here. Because I could just get additive damage in replacement, and additive damage is really irrelevant. No, you're wrong with that. Armory is absolutely not trivial. It's something completely different. So if you say the character state is the armory, and the character updates, your old states are basically not working anymore. It's a big problem because changes. So in development, the problem is not making something quick and dirty which works. The problem is how these things adapt to changes. And an armory doesn't adapt to changes very well. And sure, you could just say, you know what, we duplicate the database table and just save like the current build in there, and then we just load it and copy it from one table to another. But that's a whole lot of work. Also, the whole design system has to be built. It doesn't even exist, the UI in the front end. But you would have to need like a completely different UI, or the Paragon board respecking and stuff like that. There's probably right now systems in place which prevent you from respecking certain things. Right, so if you would go into like your game's memory and you just try to, you know, enable some Paragon nodes which you couldn't even reach, there's like protection mechanisms in play which prevent that. Then there's validation methods. So there's really much more to building an armory than really building trading. Is really just changing one ID on an item. You don't need to validate anything, or I mean, obviously you need to validate some stuff, but in general, it's a very, very easy system to build. Like, I would say an armory is probably at least 10 times the work than an auction house. No, of course it's server-side validation. But how does the new armory interact with the server-side validation? Right? I mean, we cannot know how it's built, but you know what? The source code of this game is probably a big mess. Like, don't get me wrong, there's 3 teams working on different states of the game. That's usually the most horrible thing you want to have if you're, like, developing software. You never want to have teams which work on which work on the same code and drift, like, far along from each other. You never want to have that. You basically want to integrate each other team's code within like 2 weeks normally. Even 2 weeks is already horrible. You already get a lot of conflicts if you just do 2 weeks. And in D4 they're doing it with like 3 months. So they basically have 2 or 3 teams which work on code bases which are 3 months away from each other. This is just the most horrible idea you could ever do in development. And they're still doing it for whatever reason. And that's where you see all the bugs. That's why you always see stuff reverting. Why is the pit boss HP reverted to the state before Season 4? Well, because maybe the team which is working on this season didn't integrate those changes properly. Why are bugs, again, which had already been fixed on the live servers? Well, because the team which is working on it didn't integrate those changes. Right? And they rely on automatic merging tools, which just do mistakes. But you know what? It's much easier to just click a button and, you know, you assume it's working and you don't retest it because you are stressed or whatever. So you just push one button and the software says, yeah, that's gonna work probably, no problem. But the software doesn't understand what the code actually does. It just understands it from the syntax and stuff like that, but it doesn't understand the meaning of it. It doesn't understand the difference between, for example, you know, having a 1.3 damage factor 2 times in a row, that the code doesn't know what that means. But the programmer means, oh shit, I have double dipping damage on something. But the merger will never notice it. The merger will just see, hey, this one, you know, coded this line and it takes the damage times 1.3. Then we'll see, oh, there's another guy who coded this line and it takes the damage point 1.3. And then it just says, alright, this is gonna fit together. We're just gonna put these 2 lines behind each other, and that's gonna work. So, no conflict. And there you go, you have a skill doing double the damage. Right? So, it's really It's really a horrible system they are running. And that's why I say, like, if they implement an armory like that, they're gonna create so many bugs because they're not gonna implement the changes of other teams. So what's gonna happen is they implement an armory, and all of a sudden you're gonna end up with Paragon nodes which don't even exist anymore. Because they, whatever, like, removed it from the game, or they set it like invalid. Just imagine they change a Paragon pass or something like that, and the team with the armory doesn't properly integrate it, and then all of a sudden you have a brick Paragon board. Like, there's a lot of stuff to an armory. Well, of course they use version control, but version control is basically, version control is only good to a certain degree. Once your code is fucked, your version control doesn't help shit. Because, you know, as soon as you have two people basically working on the same file and they work like somewhat in the same area of the file, the version control is not going to be able to merge these files properly. And what you're going to get is like called conflicts, and then conflicts have to be resolved. And that is not such a huge issue if the conflicts are simple. But if you have a team of hundreds of developers not resolving their conflicts for like 3 months, and then, you know, 3 months into the season, you're gonna merge the progress of two teams together, which have been working on their own for like 3 months. You just gotta get so many conflicts. It takes weeks and months to resolve them, and you're gonna make so many bugs by resolving it because it just gets out of hand. And that is completely normal. Like, you cannot avoid that. No version control is gonna help you with that. And that's what I'm saying is the game file of the game are probably like a big mess. Because you just see it, how all these bugs appear. That's how you see that their biggest problems is basically merging. Because we see it all the time. Bugs have been fixed, they reappear. And that is just such a common sign that they don't do the integrations of other teams work properly. And that's always going to cause bugs, and that's the main reason to cause bugs in like development, is always like integrating changes. Like in bigger software, in smaller software not. Smaller software is easy. If you only have like 10 files, you're just going to go to your buddy and say, hey, what is this shit? How does this work? And then he explains, yeah, this works, this and this and this, and we have to do this and this and this, and then you do this, and then you're good. But if you have like 500 people, you know, you're not gonna go to like the guy who coded this line and ask him, hey, this line, can I remove this because I have a conflict there? No, you're not gonna do that. You're just gonna do some random shit. And that's exactly what's happened with the development of this game. And it's gonna be such a hot mess with the expansion. I can already tell you, it's gonna be so bad. There's gonna be so many bugs. Because, you know what, parts of the expansion's codebase are probably a year old by now and not integrated into the live game yet. So... But it's really, you know, it's obviously speculation, but it's just what you usually see in development. The larger the teams get, the more problems you have with integration of other teams' work. And usually you have like sprints of like 2 weeks, and you usually want to integrate each other team's changes in this 2-week period, right? Usually, if you have multiple teams, you usually have team meetings like across the teams, and you're gonna resolve these conflicts every 2 weeks, and then you're gonna integrate each other changes, and then you go into the next sprint of iterations. Obviously, if you cannot finish a feature within one sprint, you're not gonna do it. But if you're like a good product owner or whatever, you're gonna basically cut your work so features, or at least part of features, can be finished within like one of these 2-week sprints, and then can be integrated, so you minimize the risk to have merging conflicts of your code as much as possible. And that's usually like 2 weeks. Some do it with 3 weeks, but 2 weeks is usually a good amount, so you can still remember all the code you wrote yourself. Because after 3 months, you're not gonna remember what code you wrote like 3 months ago. I mean, there's obviously brilliant developers, like very smart people who can do that. But most of them are actually probably not even going to remember what this code was for after 3 months. But after 2 weeks, there's good chances they know what the hell their code actually does. So, yeah. No, this is well, of all my builds, maybe it's the strongest variant, but it's not the strongest variant overall, I would say. But this also requires significantly more gear. Because this really requires like greater affix, Fist of Fate and stuff like that. So, I feel like it's a little bit stronger, but it's not like over the roof. It's maybe like 10% stronger than the other variant, I would say. Right. Oh, I have no elixir. How much juice do I have? 14k? That's so little. Again, I cannot recommend you a version of this build because it depends on your gear. So it's really, I cannot tell you. All these versions are playing fairly similar, and they basically evolve by the more gear you have, the later the version you have. So the Uber version and then the Lucky Hit version. So it really depends if you have the gear or not. I mean, it is like it is, right? So we gotta live with the expansion anyway. I think it's just gonna be extremely buggy. You know, that's what it's gonna be. I really hope they squish like the stats in the expansion at least. Because right now I feel like everything is 925, like there's literally no gear progression. I feel like that is something they should work on. I would really enjoy if they would work on overall gear progression. Because right now you basically have, you know, even the normal sacred and ancestral gear is like so irrelevant because you are at 925 ancestral gear within, I don't know, 4 hours or 5 hours. And so all the gear progression doesn't even matter at all. I really would like that to be more in line with progress, right? So that you would have, let's say, you know, they change it so that the maximum will be whatever it is, right? 1,000, it doesn't matter. I'm just making up a number here. So let's say the maximum is 1,000. And then the highest item level dropping... No, let's say the average highest item level dropping would be 800. Then you have a 1% chance to get a 10, a 1%, or maybe, you know, 10% chance for 810, 5% chance for 820, you know, 2% chance for 850, 1% chance for 880, 0.1% chance for 900. So that you have very, very rare items. Because right now, all items are basically the same item level, and it's just about the affixes. And the greater affix even doesn't have any roll range. So it really just evolves to... You're just looking for greater affix gear, and that is the story. And I feel like that's not enough variety for gear there. Also, the 3 stats is not enough variety. I feel like gear should have at least 4 to 5 stats. Maybe even 6. Like, most ARPGs have 6 stats on their gear. We only have 3. So that's extremely easy mode, right? Yeah, it's I think it's... It don't have to be a casual... it doesn't have to be a casual turn down. If you break it down into... basically powerful stats and utility stats, for example, right? You say you have 3 affixes, which are, you just recolor them to whatever golden, and that's the 3 affixes you have right now, right? So the powerful affixes. And then you have another 3 affixes, which are utility affixes, which are not that strong, but still somewhat meaningful, for example. Which is usually how it is in other games. You know, they have prefixes and suffixes, you know, and suffixes are usually more powerful than prefixes. because suffixes is all the damage stuff and prefixes is more like the utility stuff. And it just gives so much more depth, but they're probably not gonna do it. But something, at least, you know, giving a chance for a 4 FX item, right? So make every item have a 0.1% chance to roll with 4 affixes and just call it whatever, like super legendary, call it epic, or whatever you want to call it, right? So just give something above what we have right now. It is just too simple. It's a million times better than the whole damage on Tuesday story, because, you know, we had a lot of FX and most FX were just garbage, right? That's no question about that. But I want to have something which makes extraordinary items. And we don't have that right now. Like, all items are literally the same. They just differ in the amount of greater affixes. That's it. What, Masterworking for Fists of Fate? Lucky it. Lucky it, lucky it, and lucky it. I'm doing 50% chance for Spear and 30% Frozen Orb in Wand and main end right now, because I don't need 100% Lightning Spear, because it's actually going over 100%. And you know, I benchmarked those against each other. I did double Frozen Orb, I did double Lightning Spear, I did like the 50-50 one, and I tested all of them with Lightning Spear enchantment, with Ice Blitz enchantment, and also with Frozen Orb enchantment. And I found like this one plays the most fluent for me. Like, I have exactly enough cooldown reduction to get my spears up, but I'm not wasting basically, you know, too much cooldown, because if your cooldown is too fast, your attack speed is basically gonna limit you. And I feel like this point I have here for it right now feels best for me, at least. How good is manually casting Ice Blades? Well, mainly Ice Blades is not cast for the Lightning Spear cooldown, it's mainly for Unstable Currents cooldown and Teleport cooldown. How good it is? I feel like it's a good way, because it saves you an enchantment slot. And really, you only have to press it like once in a while, so it doesn't really hurt so much. Also gets you going a little bit faster in the very beginning, because, you know, I don't need Frozen Orb on my bar. So I can just press the Ice Blades, which helps ramping up the initial Lightning Spears. I feel like it's a cool way to do it, actually. I like it. You just gotta get used to be a little bit not spamming it all the time. Just press it like once in a while. Like, so many people switch to the Mekuna build and now they suck because they don't have the required gear. And they just have a scuff build which doesn't work. This is my weapon and my focus. But I really have no special gear at all. Like, my gear is actually pretty affordable. Like, if you have the Uber Uniques, my gear is not very high end. Like, I usually don't even give a damn, like, retempering this and stuff like that, because I don't have the resources to do it and I don't want to farm them. So I feel like I do more than enough damage now, so I don't really have to keep redoing anything. I cannot tell you what the best version is. Really, I cannot answer the question. It's just too dependent on your gear. For me, for my current gear, what I have, and I have good Fists of Fate, the Lucky Hit version feels best because I get the most Lightning Spears out with this. But if you don't have very good Fists of Fate, and you might be struggling with this, because this removes basically a significant chunk of damage, right? So removing your gloves for Fist of Fate removes 250% crit damage, which is like it's roughly 30%. It removes you an attack speed breakpoint, if not 2 attack speed breakpoints, which is another 10%. So it removes 40%, I would say. And you only get Lucky Hit in return, and the damage increase from the Fist of Fate. I mean, if you had a 300% Fist of Fate, it would be different, but you know, that's just something... Like, I feel like these are already pretty good, and these were crazy expensive. These were already like 8 billion gold, and this just has a 265%. So really going for something like this versus 300% is going to cost you like 50 billion gold. So, it is just unmanageable to get something like this. So... I feel like for the current gear I have, this version plays best because I get, especially in the boss fights, I get so much more lightning spears out. And I feel like with the frozen orbs, they seem to be targeting very well. Like they pick up stuff fast. You know, stuff is usually frozen and cannot hit you. Gets the damage bonus very fast from frozen enemies. And another advantage is I don't play stun on lightning spear anymore. So mobs basically travel towards me. If you play stun on lightning spear to get the extra damage to crowd control, right? Mobs basically don't travel towards you so good. This is also like one thing I like about this version, that the distance between mobs and me is a little bit lower in general. What was that? I don't even know what that was. That was just normal mobs. That wasn't even elites. How did they kill me? Yeah, that's bad. I mean, that gloves is not gonna be any good. I mean, you can use it, but you're probably gonna be better off playing regular gloves. Yeah. That's why in the guide I basically use both. So I use one frozen orb. As you can see, this is frozen orb. And this is lightning spear. And if I would retemper these to get 2 out of 2 masterworking crits on lightning spear and get 2 masterworking crits on frozen orb, it would be much better. But again, I'm not going to spend the resources of redoing this. But if you would properly masterwork your items, it would be even more impactful. But really, I don't approach these kinds of builds. Just, I mean, you know, I have a job, like, I cannot play 8 hours a day to get crazy gear. It's just something I cannot do. I want to I basically play as efficient as possible. That's why I prefer trading, because I just don't have the time to invest. And you know, if I want to make a build guide and stuff like that, that's going to cost me like another 2 to 3 hours of my, call it game time, right? So, I really cannot go for perfection on gear at all. It's something which is not going to work for my playstyle and for my time investment. So that's why my builds usually work with less crazy gear. And that's also going to be the same, like, I'm going to be starting more builds, making more build guides, like, tomorrow. And that's also going to be the place if I want to make, like, Chain Lightning, Firebolt, Charge Bolts. They're all not going to require, like, three crits on, like, whatever Masterworking. That's just not going to happen. It's going to be, like, decent builds. Because there's going to be an Uber Unique version and a non-Uber Unique version, just like with this build, and all are going to work. So I really think that's important. Because I also think, like, the audience of, like, the, you know, of most content creators, I think most content creators think their audience is actually people who spend a lot of time min-maxing their builds. But really, most of the time, it's either people looking for an inspiration what build they're gonna go for, or, you know, looking for a guide which they can just play so they have a good time playing. But most of the time, that's actually gonna be more casual gamers, or, like, whatever. Like, I consider myself, like, semi-casual gamer or whatever. And it doesn't help if you make, like, an Uber Unique only guide for these players, because, you know, in the end, you're even gonna hurt your audience, because they're gonna watch the guide, they're gonna try the build, and it's gonna suck. Right? And then it might be like, ah, yeah, I tried the build of this guy last time, and, you know, it didn't work for me. So this time I might as well, like, try a build from somebody else, because it didn't work. And I feel like you have to be honest with your audience and just tell them, you know, who is this build for? Like, this is early game, this is super late game, this requires XYZ, this is only gonna work if you have like this kind of gear. And that's what I'm at least, you know, I'm trying to do that at least. Conjuration Mastery is the least important on that amulet, literally. I mean, obviously the non-fist damage and the whatever is on there are the least important. But the most important is the cooldown reduction stat. And then comes Conjuration Mastery. So if you, for example, I mean, if trading would be enabled, if you would buy like a Winter Glass and you could get a cheap one for like 200 million, which has a 0.3 Conjuration Mastery, a 0.3 cooldown reduction, and a 3 ranks Conjuration Mastery, I would buy that. Because your damage difference between a 3 Conjuration Mastery and a 4 Conjuration Mastery, maybe 10%. In this content I'm playing right now, I have probably like 100% overkill damage. So if I lose 10%, it's not going to do anything at all. Like, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. I might take a couple of seconds longer on the council, but the impact is going to be very, very low on the ranks of Conjuration Mastery. It's absolutely min-maxing. What Uber do you run? Do you run Uber Duriel or do you run Uber Lord Zero or whatever? There you go, Celeb the Flame. You're gonna be melted. Don't group up with your boys next time, you're just gonna fall. This invigorating buff is just so overpowered. That's totally fine. So yours is much better than mine, honestly. I know you only have +5 conch mastery, right? But you have a 90% and you have a 0.7. That's better than mine. I don't like that this has triple crit on conjuration cooldowns, but you know, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna reroll this. In a perfect world, I would reroll this to like a, you know, +5 or even +4 seconds and, you know, 9 Conjuration Mastery. But the ranks in Conjuration Mastery, it's really just your peak damage which is gonna be higher. And you really don't need the peak damage here. That was a great... So that was a 3 greater FX staff. If it has crit damage on, I'm gonna be like 20 billion richer. Wait, that was not a stuff? Oh, it was an amulet. What was it? Was a ring? Is this good? Is anybody using overpower? %49 chance. It's so the lower chance counts. The 80%. The I mean, they are always related, but I don't know what 49 is what, like 75% chance or something like that on the bottom stat. $68. I mean, that's not too horrible, honestly. I mean, this is the one which I did all my clears with. My early clears with this. So this is what literally this is what I did my early clears with, okay? So this is also absolutely not perfect, and this has a 76. So yours is probably better than my old one was, to be honest. So yes, the bottom chance is so the bottom chance, right? The 76% on this one and the cooldown reduction, they are related to each other, right? So let's say you have a 90% and only 0.3 seconds. That's the same than 60% and 0.2 seconds, basically. Right? You can basically multiply these two values and you get the end, right? Because every frozen orb reduces the cooldown by Y seconds, and the lucky hit spawns more frozen orbs. So basically, you can even them out. If you have 0.4 and Masterworking 2.7 or 0.8 or whatever, it's gonna be better than mine, for example. So the absolute best is if you have the 90% chance and the highest roll in cooldowns reduced. At some point you're gonna get capped by attack speed. Right, but it takes a while until you get capped by attack speed. If you're running two-hander, you get capped by attack speed much faster, but if you're running wand and focus, it's gonna take a while until you get actually capped by attack speed, so you cannot cast any more lightning spears. You would need like probably like a 0.8, 90% or something like that. Then you would probably get capped by attack speed at some point. I did update this build. The build is in the description. Well, you're on Twitch, you don't have a description. I cannot tell you where to find this build. That's against terms of service. Yeah, not the loot. So the more... I guess the first party member gives you like a 50% health increase in mob health, and the second one 75, and the third one 100 or something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but the more party members, basically it just affects the hit points, not the damage. But I mean, really, what I want to say is don't sweat this amulet. Like, I know a lot of people will tell you that you need a perfect amulet to make this work, but that's actually absolutely not true. Like, the only important thing is really just the cooldown reduction. All other stats are bonus. It works absolutely fine with a horrible winter glass. I started this build with a much worse winter glass than I have now. And it was absolutely no problem. If you're still casting frozen orbs, no matter what your winter glass is, you're gonna be alright. If you're still casting frozen orb, you can literally slap on any winter glass you want. It's not gonna make any difference. Obviously, you're getting stronger the better your winter glass is, yes. But if you're still casting Frozen Orb, you're always going to be good. And only if you really want to get to that point where you don't want to cast Frozen Orb anymore, it starts to matter. So if you're still somewhat early and casting Frozen Orb, nobody cares about the roll on your Winter Glass, really. If you have any of them, it's going to work. Yeah, really most important is the greater affix gear. Like greater affix, cooldown reduction, Tal Rasha ring is very awesome. I mean, if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. But it's one item where the greater affix helps a lot. And then obviously the legendaries with... You know, greater affix's critical strike damage are just the best for this build in general. My new Winter Glass has like a 0.2 base... I'll show you after this. Whoa. Alright. I play like super sloppy today. I hate these guys, they always one-shot me if I don't spam hard enough. That's the problem. If you like slow down, like these things happen. You always want to be like pumping. Even though I have pretty decent damage reduction in this actually. Like my damage reduction in this is actually much higher than in most other builds. And this guy, this Desecrator, he's still gonna one-shot you. It's like, the guy is insane. So this is my current one. So really, I just bought this because this was like 6 billion gold. And it had just a 0.2 and a greater affix Conjuration Mastery and 80%. So this was basically the best one I could afford. But this is far from being maxed. Right? I really just bought this for the Conjuration Mastery and the high chance. It only has a +2. Is it even an axe? I would call that... I don't know, it doesn't look like an axe to me. It looks like something strange. I don't know if it's a bug, but they just do crazy damage. It's a little weird because the other one which is spawning, like the... What is it called? The Tormentor or something like that. It literally does no damage. And all the mobs in here, like, none of them does any damage but this guy, right? The guy does 10 times the damage of the Fel Council. I don't know if it's supposed to be a bug or not. Also he has like a firebolt attack. Like he shoots these 3 firebolts. They're also instantly gonna one-shot you through 85% max resistance, 20k barrier, 20k life. It's probably just, you know, Blizzard, right? It's probably just somewhere like 1-0 too much in the damage table or something like that. So the damage of that guy definitely doesn't match like the rest of the run. Yeah, and I didn't even want the triple hit. I wanted the double hit. This is actually more than I need. But it's okay. I'm not gonna rework it. Diablo.trade is the website. But trade is disabled right now, right? Because there's like some kind of a dupe bug. I mean, the website is absolutely horrible, but you know it's the only one, right? But it has been... It is so much better. Like, it works okay at this point, right? It was absolute dog shit when it came out. Like, it was never working. Like, the chats and stuff like that, they were always offline. It was horrible. But at this stage, at least it's functional, right? The search is like super bugged. The affixes are all bugged. You cannot search for aspects and stuff like that. So there's lots of problems with like search and stuff like that on the website. But at least it does its job of, you know, you're technically being able to trade. No, I wouldn't re-roll that. I would absolutely not re-roll that for... You know, even if you re-roll it, you're gonna give yourself like 15% extra damage. But you know what? Just re-roll something else. You're gonna get more damage out of that. I don't know, like... The trade you cannot really scam. I mean, you obviously have to look at your items. But I feel like it's pretty secure, right? You have to confirm the trade 2 times. So if you look so when the other player has logged the item in and you look at the item, you will actually see when he unlocks it and locks it again, because it's also gonna unlock yours. Right, so with the trading is, if you lock yours and he unlocks his, yours also gets unlocked. That's basically the security check. Right, so even if he like switches it super fast and switch back to locked, yours is still gonna be unlocked then. So that's how you notice that he changed, basically. What do you mean? If he closes the trade, it's gonna start again, right? I don't understand. He closes the whole trade and redone it. I mean, you have to... Obviously, if you don't look... Yeah, okay, if he takes an item which looks the same and you don't look at it... I mean, I would call it a scam, but it's pretty easy to detect, right? Like... So... Basically, always before you trade, check the item, right? Before you hit the final confirm, you just want to check the item. But... I mean, I'm pretty sure it works with some people, right? Why not? But honestly, like this game, like scamming in trade, really? Like, people don't have something better to do? I don't have... Well, I'm also always out of the iron. But it depends what your Masterworking, right? If you're trying to triple crit your cooldown reduction on your Shaco, you're gonna use your like leather scraps, and if you're trying your weapons and rings, you're gonna run out of the other one, right? So basically there's just 2 of those white materials. And I also have like 10k of one and 2k of the other one. Yeah, you still have them, but you're gonna run out of them at some point. If you really want to try to like double crit like all your items and you get a bad streak, you're gonna burn through those resources like so goddamn fast. Like I have so I have 4k iron chunks now. Like I literally was redoing my Tarasha ring and I couldn't do it anymore because I ran out and I had to do like 5 or 6 runs and just pick up all the items at the end. And so this is not even 200 this is not even 200 masterworks, right? And 200 masterwork is not that much. It's really not that much. You're gonna run out of this shit fast. So I already told that like a couple of days ago. So right, the last 4 do not cost the white materials, right? But they cost like, what does it cost? Like 1,000 Nice iron in total. So I was at the point where I wanted to hit my 2 out of 3s, right? I wanted to hit my 2 masterworking crits. So what I was doing is, if I hit it once, I was upgrading my item to the end, because the last 2 steps weren't costing the white materials, and I have way more than enough of the Nice iron. So I literally did exactly what you don't want to do. I did the most expensive upgrades because they don't cost the white materials, which is completely stupid, but that was the best way for me to actually get my double crits. Because otherwise it would be back to like farming gear from the material chest, salvaging it, and it just takes so much time. Like in the end it takes way more time picking up the gear and salvaging it than just burning the higher materials. Only the cooldown reduction, the unique aspect. Everything else is irrelevant. I mean, lucky hit is nice to have, but absolutely not needed. So really, cooldown reduction and the 20% one. I mean, I would like to have a cooldown reduction 20% one. I have a 17.5, which is, again, it's alright. You know, in the end, if you min-max all your gear, you're probably gonna do 50% extra damage, right? But in Infernal Hordes, I'm not gonna need it for anything anyway. If you want to do high tier pit pushing, that's probably, you know, every 15% or every 20% is probably 1 rank in high tier pit pushing or something like that. You put it into perspective. Maybe 15% will equal 1 rank or something like that. Hellborne, Hellborne, Hellborne. So, I mean, that's good. You can use it for any build now. You're not gonna need it for frost builds anyway. All frost builds are gonna use Talracha and Starless Skies anyway. And for fire builds, probably the same. Fire builds will also probably use Talracha, Starless Skies. Right, the only builds which would not use this will be lightning builds. Because Starless Skies is just so strong. Like the attack speed roll and the crit roll is just so high. You don't like Druid this season? I thought Druid is awesome this season. Yeah, if you go for Fist of Fate and you don't have greater FX attack speed, I mean the crit chance is not so hard because I have I have 82.2% crit, right? So I'm like 3% below, and I mean, mine have good crit, right? But if you remove 5% crit, you know, you're gonna end up at like 7. You're still gonna be very good. Like crit, you can always. I mean, I don't have greater epics and don't even get good crit roll on my focus here. And also here I have regular crit, so I feel like fixing crit is pretty easy, but having Fist of Fate without greater FX attack speed is actually... I mean, it feels like it hurts. So many Hellborne. Another good run here. I wonder if I get like another 1200 plus run. I feel like that was the run of all runs, the 1280. I mean, I've seen one with 1285. For two-hand, well, for two-hand you really cannot do much with attack speed because, you know, it is like it is. For two-hand you basically need to squeeze out every little bit of attack speed you can, I guess. But it's not so, like, two-hand you're gonna do a shit ton of damage anyway, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 2 times 19.x is alright. Not horrible. Can definitely use that if you use attack speed elixir. I don't know, I just like the Frozen Orb story with this build. I think it's cool. The spawning stops because the amount of waves is fixed, basically. So if you're basically killing this stuff too fast, there's gonna be a break in spawns. So you can be too slow and you're gonna get less spawns total, right? Because the time will run out. But there's basically a maximum amount of waves. And at some point then, I don't know how it exactly works. It's somehow timed. So like one wave will probably spawn every XYZ seconds. And if you kill it faster than that, then it's just basically gonna be delayed. I don't know how it works exactly. Oh yeah, look at these guys. So see, you get 55, 56 conjurations. So they melt like crazy. That's really cool. Like if they group with 3, they just instantly melt. And that always makes me like a little bit happy because if I have the flame guy and he just refuses to group, it's like gonna be so annoying. So I also recommend like always open this chest until your inventory is full. Right, that's gonna be the most efficient way for you, first of all, to max your aspects. And also you get the white materials if you always salvage one full inventory. I wouldn't do the chest because it just takes so much time, right? If you go to chest, stash it, that you have to click all the items. But I always fill one inventory. So I get my white mats. Is it harder in a group? No, it's... I think it becomes easier in a group, actually. Because the monster age... So the damage doesn't really go up. So you have, like, kind of group synergies, right? Like you can share each other's crowd control and stuff like that. And, you know, takes more damage, debuffs, whatever. Like Barbs can cry, war cry you more life or damage or whatever. So generally, group play is beneficial. But I never play in groups. I have no friends. That's okay. This game is already overwhelming me when not in a group. Right. So see, I always fill one inventory after each run. So can go through it. Backlash. Could keep these at least. 2 greater affix, why not? And then, you know, it's just because I can salvage them and get the white mats. It's important. Get your white mats. It's not better. If you have the perfect gear, the 201 is better. In the terms of raw damage output. If you want to push pit. If you only want to do Infernal Hordes, you're just building up overkill damage. And you're gonna add much more requirements for a build. So I would say in general, this build is better for Infernal Hordes because it's much easier, much cheaper to build and requires much lower breakpoints. But if you have perfect gear, the 201 is gonna be best. You can get more even than this. So you can get 60 plus conjurations. But I don't know how many you get with 200 in a real scenario. I haven't really watched that too much. But since the lightning spears do double the damage, you know, you don't need to have 60 of them. I think at the dummy scenario with overflowing energy, they can get up to like 60. But I think in a real world scenario, it's not going to work like that for the two-handed weapon. I don't know. Right now trading is disabled, so I cannot sell the stones. So probably when trading gets re-enabled, the stones are probably gonna be worthless anyway. So I might just run them or whatever at some point. I mean, we shall see if they will have any value. Last time, remember last season when trading was disabled, it took like a full week, and after that literally trading was over because the inflation on all the materials was like so high that it literally didn't matter anymore. And I kind of have a feeling it's gonna be the same. Yeah, but if you only do 25 with the two-hand, you are not there. You don't have enough cooldown reduction, not enough lucky hit. You're probably having some issues. So, like there's a clip of Mekuna getting like 60 conjurations at the dummies with two-hand. So you can definitely get a lot. It depends, obviously. I think with two-hand you need a very good roll on the cooldown reduction parts, and also like that guy has like 65 to 70% cooldown reduction, right? It's ridiculous. Like he has a Shaco with a greater affix and 3 Masterworking crits and shit like that. So obviously if you reduce your base lightning spear cooldown to something like 4 seconds, then you can also get very high conjuration counts with two-hand. Right, but in a real scenario where you have... Ah, come on, these guys. In a real scenario, with like decently reachable gear, you're probably gonna cap out at like 40 conjurations with the 200 one. I would say, somewhere around that. Yeah, you wanna use dagger or wand if you play wand and focus. You don't wanna use sword or mace. The attack speed is too low. Yeah, I mean, that's alright, what you have, right? I mean, it's probably just your tempers. Because I play, again, I play half and half Frozen Orb and the other half chance to spawn Lightning Spear. And you might be playing double Lightning Spear, which actually hurts the number of conjurations. So I felt like the one in the middle is very good. For me, it works best. Absolutely best. It was a very, very big difference. Right? I take 1 times Frozen Orb and 1 times extra chance for Lightning Spear. Because I want more Frozen Orbs to get more cooldown reduction. You kind of have to find the balance in the middle. Right? Well, I only have 1 on both, as you can see. So, I mean, it would be better if you have double on both. Especially on this Lightning Spear. If you would triple quit this Lightning Spear, right? You get almost to 100% on just the focus. So, in a perfect world, if you triple crit this one, you're probably gonna get like to like 70 conjurations with this build. Somewhere around that. God. But yeah, I'm not gonna redo that. I gotta save my white mats. I would redo it if it wouldn't cost the white materials, but I'm running out of these. But yeah, technically, I think the perfect focus would be triple crit that. But I mean, double crit will already give you like 70% or like 65%ish. And I guess triple crit you will go to like 80% or so. Yeah, I bricked everything with tempers, man. I like literally I would settle for every min roll. I'm already so lucky if I can get my tempers through. And I only get min rolls. Like really, story of my life. I never get anything other than min rolls. Other than on the but only on the so on the offensive tempers, right? I get only min rolls, but on the weapon tempers, I always get max rolls. It's like so weird. But that's kind of the story with my tempers. Want to see my amulet? Oh, this is like the worst run. If I weren't out of iron, I would probably do it, yes. Because mine are just horrible. I mean, I might not redo the wand. But I would definitely redo the focus, because the wand has double crit damage. That is not bad. But the problem is it has a min roll, so by just having a min roll, it's way less impactful than if it would have a max roll, right? So, it might probably even worse redoing that one. Especially because these are not so expensive, right? What? Again? I didn't even hate these. So, I have to be careful now, because if I die, I'm done. So if you have a max roll crit damage, it makes perfect sense to masterwork on it. But on a min roll, it's much less impactful, actually. So it's actually a pretty significant difference. So, but picking up 100 weapons, that is... it's just much cheaper, right? If you would do 2-end, like one of those staffs with just 1 greater FX crits is gonna cost you 2 to 3 billion gold. But, like these items, they only cost you like 300 million or something like that. But this one I would redo. So I would get a new focus with greater FX crit chance or greater FX cooldown. One of both, doesn't really matter. This one is horrible. And I would redo this one. This item is dog shit. Right? This one, would I redo this? I would probably just keep it like it is. Yeah, but so here's the thing, right? Last season, you know, people tempered crit damage for no reason because it's just stupidity and misinformation. Last season, you wouldn't benefit from crit damage at all when tempering. I know everybody tempered crit damage on Frozen Orb build with not even having 100% crit, while damage to close was the much stronger stat. And there was absolutely no reason to temper crit damage. It's just because people were saying that, you know, there's somewhat a multiplier on crit damage, which is just not true. Right? So this season you do crit damage because it scales with the lightning spear, but last season doing crit damage was actually not useful. Like, it would just be a waste of your tempering. You would just brick all your items for no reason by pushing crazy crit damage, which you don't even need. I mean, obviously, if you for barbarians, it was different, right? I'm talking for sorcerers now. So sorcerers has no benefit from crit damage. Well, now it has with the lightning spear temper, with the lightning spear aspect. But before it didn't. So you wouldn't even need to temper crit damage. I'm using Frozen Orb enchantment and Firebolt enchantment. So really you need to understand there's no interaction on crit damage whatsoever, right? So all additive damages are equal. Crit damage, vulnerable damage, damage to close, damage to distant, damage to burning. It's all exactly the same. There's literally no difference to those damage types. But right now, the lightning spear aspect, which scales with your crit damage. So that's really the only double dipping sorcerer has. There's no other double dipping whatsoever. And obviously barbs have double dipping and rogues have double dipping with vulnerable damage, right? They have nodes which get multiplicative damage based on the additive amount of vulnerable damage. Barbs have the same with bleed and crit. But Sorcs didn't have this. And now they have it, so now you basically, well, if you want to play Lightning Spear, right, you're just gonna go crit damage. But if you're not playing Lightning Spear, you don't have to go crit damage, right? If you're running 50% crit, you're much better off going for vulnerable damage or maybe close damage, depending on your playstyle, or going for cold damage or fire damage than crit damage. Because people, and I was thinking this myself, by the way, but people think that Devouring Blaze is actually a crit multiplier. So that Devouring Blaze somehow scales with your additive critical strike damage, but that's just not true. So it just is, it's just a regular multiplier to crit. So it doesn't matter if you have 1000% crit damage or 1000% vulnerable damage, you're gonna do exactly the same damage. Like, there's no interaction of Devouring Blaze with crit damage. Also, the aspects, right? The 3 curses aspects for like the meteor and fireball crit. There's no interaction with crit damage. Also, the, what is it called? Searing Heat node. There's no interaction with crit damage. Right? They're just regular multipliers. So, Burning Instinct node, obviously there is an interaction with crit damage. But you're gonna cap out that node with fire damage regardless anyway. So, really just for the lightning spear. And obviously it has the highest roll if you have 100% crit chance. I don't get this. I don't know how I am dying. This is like the first one I didn't finish. This is literally the first time I didn't finish a run. No clue. I don't know. I think they're... If you're going for Lightning Spear, probably the crit damage is the strongest because it directly increases your damage there. How did I get slain by the Etheric Mass? Like, these don't do any damage. How did it kill me? Something is odd here. Yeah, 77% is Greater Affix, Fist of Fate. It's better in my opinion if you have the gear. If you don't have the gear, it's worse. Maybe I should spec back into lightning spears, then I die too often. I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try it. Actually, I've been playing without this for a long time now. Will definitely prevent me from being one-shot by these guys. With perfect gear, it is, yes. But without perfect gear, you will be weaker than with the other variants. That's basically the story. Lightning spear stun back. What do we take? Yeah, I mean, I don't play T-balls. I just don't need the extra damage. I rather do. I'm playing Lucky Hit now on my pants, right? So I can get just more stuff out. I don't even know what's going to be more beneficial, honestly. Probably T-bot's going to do a little bit more damage than this. With Lucky Hit aspect, you get a little bit more contra rates, but probably the smartest way would be to just put damage reduction on it for real. But it's not gonna save you from the Desecrator one-shot, right? They are just like buggy. Or not buggy. Wrong numbers. Because I have a decent amount of damage reduction without. I probably have like somewhere around 150 damage reduction or so. So I should have way more than enough. Yeah, but I don't think Lucky Hit... I mean, I don't think Lucky Hit benefits you so much. Because, you know, I have... How much Lucky Hit do I have? So I have 187 plus the one from Conjuration, right? So I have like 210 and I have another 25. So I have like 230% Lucky Hit or something like that. And I think, you know, replacing crit chance with Lucky Hit is not beneficial. I think this is already too much. I think this, I can also remove this fortune aspect without any problems and just put something defensive on here. I think I'm already over the high amount. I don't think I would need that. But I don't think the extra 25% damage reduction would save me from these Desecrator one-shots anyway. The fastest, I did hit 129 with this. And I had like 7 minutes left. But, you know, I really don't have any incentive right now pushing that farther. Oh, butcher. Meet the butcher. I think it's so annoying that he doesn't give any rewards. Like, he should drop, like, 50 ever or something like that, but he literally doesn't drop anything. He just, like, pretty much removes a wave from you. Yeah, they have different attacks, so the 3 fireball one kills you if it hits you. And the sword, like, or axe or whatever he's carrying for his weapon, if he slams you with that, it's gonna kill you as well. So both of those are one-shotting you. The fire he summons, like, around him is not gonna one-shot you if you have decent resistance. Just gonna hit you for, like, 70% of your life or so. But the other two abilities just one-shot you, that's true. But the firebolts are usually not gonna hit you if you keep moving. Yeah, but I'm probably not gonna do it. Again, I don't think it's gonna save me. If it would save me, sure, but I doubt it does. I'd rather keep my 25% lucky hit. That gives me more lightning spear cooldown. I just rather have like a more fluent gameplay. Like, I don't want to. The more lucky hit you remove, the more clunky it basically gets. The less lightning spear cooldown reduction you have. So I'm keeping it for now. Yeah, I only play solo. This game, you can play on every server with this, right? You're just gonna have dog shit latency. I guess America server is alright still. You're gonna... So if I play on America server, I have like 100 millisecond latency, which is totally alright for this game. You know, just on the Asian servers, you get like 200 plus. Or like Russian servers, I believe, as well. Like, you cannot play on these, but America is usually not an issue. We have got lines straight through the ocean. Go straight from whatever, like Hamburg to New York. Like Chinese is slow because they gotta like check every data package, right? There's like a Chinese guy who's like gonna open every data package and see if there's like some stuff in there. So that's why ping in China is like so bad. They have to open all the network packages and check if there's something interesting inside. I feel like I cannot really decide if it plays better with lightning spear stun or not. I'm really like, I think it gives you a little bit more burst damage because you get the damage to crowd controlled a little earlier, because I don't have to wait for Frozen Orb to hit them. Well, if you do the same amount of conjurations with 2 and then 1 hand, then you are probably not limited by attack speed. You are limited by cooldown, right? So there's 2 limiting factors on these conjuration. The one is cooldown, and the other one is the reduction of the cooldown. Sorry, the one is attack speed, and the other one is the reduction of the cooldown, right? So if your attack speed is too low, you permanently spam conjurations. Which is, with a 200 staff, you're gonna like cap out at like 25 or so if your attack speed is too low. Right? And with Wand and Focus, you're gonna cap out at like 40 to 45 if your attack speed is too low. And everything after that basically is cooldown reduction. Right? 45 cooldown reduction is too low. It's not playable with 200 staff, basically. For 200 staff, you need 55 at least. Otherwise, it's not gonna work out so good. The 0.7 is not so important, because if you don't have attack speed, so you basically never reach the critical mass like where you cast so many frozen orb that the 0.7 would matter so much, right? And you probably also don't have the highest lucky hit chance on your winter glass. I mean, I don't know what lucky hit chance you have on there, but so your limiting factor is probably the amount of frozen orbs. How is 53% attack speed with potion 90%? It doesn't make any sense. You cannot. How do you get? I don't think you can get 53% attack speed with 200 with just 2. I don't think. I think you already have the potion active. 45% is. I mean, you could get it with double 2 greater affix. Well, there would be 53. Oh no, that's actually okay. That's possible, right? Yeah. 53 would be 2 greater affix, 2 masterworking crit attack speeds. Well, if you have 90 on the amulet, then you should be good, honestly. I mean, your cooldown reduction is low, but it should work. You're probably playing it wrong somewhat, because your gear is like so much better than mine. But again, 45% cooldown reduction is too low for 200 stuff. It's not gonna work. The gear requirement on the 200 stuff is very, very high. Also, keep in mind that if you have 200 stuff, right, and you have chance to double cast lightning spears, it makes it harder to reach the critical mass, right? I'm still using extra frozen orbs because that's gonna give me more cooldown reduction. That was the firebolt desecrator again. It's like so annoying. I don't know why I'm dying all the time today. It's like terrible. So that is also something you have to keep in mind. If you play two-handed, you don't have any extra frozen orb chance to cast, right? So if you don't have any extra frozen orb, your cooldown reduction is going to be even worse. I have extra chance to cast frozen orb, and I'm also playing frozen orb enchantment, right? So I get significantly more frozen orbs, which give me significantly more cooldown reduction in this build. You are not going to have all that stuff. You're probably running Frost Ice Blades enchantment, and you're basically not going to be able to reach a critical mass where your lightning spears casting enough frozen orbs to keep your conjurations high enough. That's basically the story there. So what you can do is, you can you cannot switch your temper, honestly. So if with two-hand you really don't have an option to switch your temper. Because if you put your two-hand on extra frozen orb, it's not going to be any beneficial at all. So you really just need more cooldown reduction, bro. But again, like, if you're playing Wand and Focus, switch to Frozen Orb enchantment. It really helps. It helps a lot. And you're not gonna gain much benefit of the Ice Blades enchantment anyway. That's why I put Ice Blades on my bar. It works really, really good. And I don't need the slot. Like, if you look at the Pit Tier 150 clear of Mekuna, he doesn't even use that slot, right? So I feel like it's beneficial to use this slot for Ice Blades. So I have Invigorate, right? Now I'm gonna get crazy amount of conjurations again. See, there's 56, 58, 60. And this is not against the target dummy, and I don't even have I don't even have 2 bosses in my overflowing energy, right? So if you have more bosses in your overflowing energy, it scales way higher. I hate this guy. So again, even against single target, right? You can see 55. So this build really gets a lot more conjurations out than the two-handed variant. But the lightning spears are basically just gonna do half the damage, right? So this build definitely does a significant amount of less damage than the two-handed one, especially because the two-handed one has the double critical strike damage basically on the stuff, right? Because I have less critical strike damage here. I mean, I don't have any here. I'm using crit. If you have perfect gear, you would also put critical strike damage on here and masterwork. So, I mean, in my current gear iteration, I'm missing probably like 200 to 300% critical strike damage. And that's just gonna put me like so far behind if I wanted to push pits. And that's really just masterworking the perfect crits to get your critical strike damage. You cannot buy anything because trading is disabled. Or is it enabled again? I don't think so. How is it going, bro? I wish this would just drop white materials, this goddamn chest. I mean, I haven't done like pit pushing in a while with this, because I always dislike the way with the bosses and stuff like that. It just takes so long, and you know, you have to be careful to dodge all the abilities and stuff like that. It's just not my favorite thing to do in this game. But I mean, if I would optimize this build, I don't know how far I would get. I could probably make 140, I would assume. I think of 140, maybe 142 or something like that would be the maximum I could get with this iteration here. I mean, I could certainly try. It depends a little bit on the boss. I'm gonna try one after this. I mean, I tried the 129. And I could have finished it, but I died to the boss and I was lazy and I didn't restart it. You probably would want to use T-Bot's Will for that. Yeah, I mean, you're welcome. It was super easy to clear level 8, right? I literally did it with like 8 out of 12 Masterwork, and level 15 glyphs I cleared tier 8. Right, I posted a video of tier 8 on day 1. I mean, I think it was like day 2, 8 in the morning or something, like, or 10 in the morning. I don't even remember the time. So it was really, really early I did that. And I had shit gear. So... And just by casting Frozen Orbs, right? Just by casting Frozen Orbs, you just spawn enough Lightning Spears to kill stuff. You maybe just don't get like this crazy instant Lightning Spear cooldown, so you just get them every, You know, you can cast a lightning spear every like 1 or 2 seconds maybe if you're like still casting Frozen Orb. But it's way more than enough to clear Infernal Hordes tier 8. And it's also, I mean, I wouldn't farm tier 8 with a very low gear, right? You can clear it, but I wouldn't farm it. Farming tier 7s is absolutely no problem with this build, even if you have the greatest dogshit gear. You just cast Frozen Orbs and you can farm tier 7. Absolutely no problem. And you're never gonna get that done with like a 200 stuff. But I mean, you can also farm tier 7 without any problems with Fireball or... I mean, I don't even know if you can do it with Chain Lightning, honestly. You can do it with Hydra as well. Tier 7 is relatively easy to farm if you have a good... if you have decent gear and a decent build. I just feel like Lightning Spear is just a little bit too strong. At this point, I would like the build to get nerfed. At least a little bit. Because it would incentivize people to play other builds. Because right now, literally everybody plays the same build, which is... I don't really like that. Well, that's not too bad. Your stats are not too bad, actually. I guess I guess if you would play a really juiced 200 stuff variant, the Infernal Hordes, the benefit would be that you could spawn Etherlords. Because I don't have enough damage to bring down Etherlords fast enough. And I guess if you have the real juiced 200 stuff build, you can actually do Etherlords. They should die fast enough to not screw up your waves, which is a little bit of an advantage. Because technically they are not so bad from a reward point of view. I don't know, I don't think Ball Lightning this season is going to be a thing. Ball Lightning basically has nothing. The only thing Ball Lightning basically has is fast attack speed, so you could use it for unstable current build to kind of fuel a lightning spear build, or you could use it for some kind of an Endariel's build maybe, because it has like technically the highest lucky hit chance of all Sorc skills in a boss fight scenario, because one Ball Lightning hits a boss around 12 times. So if you have a double cast chance, your Ball Lightning technically hits a boss 24 times. So maybe the only... like, you could probably build like something around Endariel's with that. But the raw damage of Ball Lightning is going to be weak. Because I don't need the extra Lightning Spears. I get enough Lightning Spears like I have right now. And you basically have to balance the cooldown reduction and the Lightning Spear. And I feel like if I have one Frozen Orb, I get more Frozen Orbs, which reduce my cooldown. So I just get more Lightning Spears. Basically what I did is I just, you know, I benchmarked these and I just checked which variant I get more Lightning Spears with. And it is the one which I get the most Lightning Spears is the 50-50 variant. So one Lightning Spear, one Frozen Orb was the best for me. If I had more cooldown reduction, if I had another 10% cooldown reduction, it would probably be a double Lightning Spear. It's really like, it's an act of balance. %90 damage reduction? What's with 90% damage reduction? You mean crackling energy, like the small lightning bolts? It's just the lucky hit passive. Static discharge. Basically just use them for 15% extra damage. No, I think you can actually beat Etherlords if you have a very high damage build. I think it's alright. It's just about delaying the waves, so if you can clear the Etherlords within like 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds, you're not delaying the waves. But if you need like upwards of 30 seconds for them, you're gonna delay the waves. But if you kill it really, really fast, it should be okay. Yeah, the 4 greater epics Tarasha with the 50%. I mean, you have to put it into perspective, right? So, the greater affixes on Tarasha are irrelevant other than the cooldown reduction. So really, it is no different than just getting a cooldown reduction one. The other greater affixes are irrelevant. So, you always have to balance your damage. How much damage are you doing right now? Are you doing enough damage? Because you're basically missing out on 30%. 30% damage is... It's a good amount of damage. But if the cooldown reduction pushes you as high that you can just, you know, have 10 more lightning spears active, that's going to be more than 30% damage. Right? Even though the Tarasha ring with the 4 greater affix and the 10% is basically not very good, it's still a greater affix cooldown reduction, right? So you always got to keep in mind that that is actually not bad by design. And losing some raw damage on a build is way less important than losing the build entirely. So if your build is not functioning, but you get yourself an extra 30% damage, it doesn't give you anything. But if you can make your build functioning by using a greater FX cooldown reduction, even though the rest of the ring is dog shit, you're still gonna be better off. So the first priority is always make your build work. And then you worry about maxing your damage. It's the same with mana regeneration. You know, I have all these guys telling me, oh, I use this build guide and I struggle with mana, why doesn't it work? And I just tell them, you know what, fix your mana first and then take care of the build guide. Because it doesn't make any sense to play a build guide if you cannot even get your resource up. So, fluent gameplay in your build is the most important. And then comes damage. And especially in this content, high peak damage it's really not needed. You're not gonna get starved by not having enough damage. Worst thing it's gonna do is you're gonna take a little bit longer to clear this content. But you're gonna be alright. If you wanna do high tier pit pushing, obviously it's all about min-maxing damage. But if you wanna be high tier pit pushing, you wouldn't use a 10% Tarasha ring, right? So we don't even need to talk about that. Yeah, I just hold Q. Yes, you can hold the button. That works just fine. You just have to if you hold the button and then you move, right? Basically, while you're moving, like or while you're casting something else, I'm holding Q right now, right? So it's always casts. In general, that works. I don't know how it goes with like, you know, console or something like that, but I can just hold Q and it will always cast lightning spears. You just don't want to hold 2 buttons because you can only hold 1 button, right? So the last button you're holding gets the priority basically. So if you hold Q and then you start holding W, it's gonna basically switch to holding W. You can only hold 1 key. Maybe that's your problem there because you're holding another key at the same time. So that doesn't work. I mean, it might work if you have a special keyboard or something like that. But usually it doesn't work. Windows basically only takes the input of 1 button holding. It has like a maximum number of keys you can press at the same time. And holding a button basically is the same than, you know, pressing it like 50 times a second or so. Like it goes like as a... It makes like these key press signals like, you know, in a very, very fast mana, and you cannot hold 2 buttons at once. Only if with special hardware it is possible, but normally it's not possible. My cooldown is, I believe, 55% or so. 57. So my cooldown is pretty good. It could be better, though, but... Look, if I had the Mikuna Greater FX Shaco with triple Masterwork crit and cooldown reduction, I would be freaking out, but unfortunately I don't have that. I could add a focus with Greater FX cooldown reduction, so I could add a significant amount of cooldown reduction to my build still. But with this amount, it already works like almost perfectly. Like there's room for a little bit more improvement, definitely, but it's not gonna happen. Yeah, I would never use right. I mean, at least I personally don't like using mouse buttons. I mean, I use right mouse button for just I'm using ice armor on right mouse button, right? But I don't like to use spammable skills on mouse button. I cannot use it on left mouse button because click to move is way more is very important, so I cannot get rid of that. And I cannot spam right mouse button while moving with the left. That just doesn't work for me. I don't know, it like kills my fingers. So I really can only have like a on my right mouse button. I can only have like a skill which I'm not spamming. Just works way better for me to use keyboard keys for my skills there. But you know, that's basically my personal preference. It plays best for me that way. You're welcome, bro. Yeah, I mean, you know, I have biggest respect for like you mouse people, like all the whole gamer mouse, MMO mouse and stuff like that. You know, biggest respect. I just can't get it in my head. Like, it doesn't work for me. I would switch up these buttons. I can't deal with that. It's just not gonna work for me. I tried, but it's not working. Wow. What hit me there? I hate it when the flame guy is left. This one really, this one does big damage. Yes, having more than 100% lucky hit chance does something. This is not, it is not lucky hit chance 100%, it's lucky hit chance increased. So there's no cap on lucky hit chance. I mean, the only cap would be if the lucky hit effect of a skill has more than 100%, it will cap out at 100%, right? So if you have, like this one here, right, which is, well, it doesn't make any sense. So I guess X-Force is an example where you can reach it. No, X-Force, yeah, I don't have Endarials. With Endarials, for example, I guess Endarials has 30%, right? And if you use it with Teleport, for example, my teleport has 187%, right? And if Endarials has 30%, no, it would also not be 100. It would be 90%. So something having 50%, some ability having 50% lucky hit chance or something like that, and then triggering with teleport So you basically just cannot have more than 100, right? You cannot lucky hit more than once with one skill. So at 100% you're basically capped. But I don't even think there's a single skill on Sorc where you can achieve that with. Because for example the lucky hit on this, if it would be 90, right? So let's say it's 90 on the Winter Glass, and you have let's say make it 200%, right? So you could just say you have 90 and then you have a 200% lucky hit chance increase. So you would basically have 270%, and then you have to multiply it with the skill's lucky hit chance, right? So the base lucky hit chance of Lightning Spear is just low. I mean, this is already calculated. So with calculated 15% times 90% for the Winter Glass, you basically have, every Lightning Spear, whenever it hits, you have a 15% chance to trigger. And this is not capped in any way because you're never going to reach the 100%. So 200% lucky hit chance works, right? If you remove this, your Lightning Spear just has way less of a base lucky hit chance. So technically there's no cap on lucky hit chance other than reaching 100% with a skill combined. Basically, right, it's always two components, right? It's always the lucky hit chance your skill has, and then it's the lucky hit chance the effect you want to proc. And these two get multiplied. And if that multiplied value would reach more than 100%, then you would just lucky it every single time. So then you would technically have overcapped it. But I don't think on Sorc there's a single spell which can do that, actually. I mean, Teleport could proc something with 170%, but I don't think there's anything... Well, Blue Rose, probably. With Blue Rose, you could do it. On a frozen enemy with Blue Rose, you could actually reach more than 100%, I think. I don't think I have one of these, no. I just keep trashing them because it's useless. But I think that's the only thing I can think of where you could actually reach that values. Oh, my splintering energy updated. I can't believe it. I've been looking for this for like forever. Oh, please let it be maxed. Ah. Well, at least I'm at 15. I have been at 14 for like forever now. I'm at least at 15. Which is actually a significant damage increase, by the way. Like, it's another 10%. And I'm still missing another 10% by the non-maxed splintering energy here. And also, like, I did so many runs with this gear. And I did, like, open the chest in Infernal Hordes, like, I don't even know how many times, like the gear chest. I filled 5 of my stash tabs 10, 15 times in a row, and I didn't even get a single splintering energy. It's just cursed. Like, I cannot finish that one. But I mean, at least I just got one more now. That's pretty nice. Maybe at some point I will get the last one. Depends on your Tal Rasha ring. Not gonna be a huge... I mean, it depends. If you have a 20%, right? It's a significant difference. If you just have like a 17% or so, I mean, it's still a significant difference, but you're gonna win something by attack speed, right? So by... and by crit damage. So I think it will even out in the end. Depends what you put on your ring, right? If you put a crit chance, crit damage, and attack speed on your ring, you're probably gonna be even a little bit higher than... I mean, depends on... Not higher than it was at 20%, but if you're like at a 70% Tal Rasha, you're probably gonna be higher. I think in the end it's gonna even out at roughly the same value. Because, you know, if you put 20% attack speed on your ring, that's most likely gonna be a frame, so you're probably looking somewhere at like 7% damage increase from the extra attack speed. Then if you put crit damage temper on it, plus crit damage on the ring, you're probably looking at a 10 to 15% damage increase from the crit damage. And cooldown reduction is irrelevant because you can temper lightning spear cooldown reduction on it. So I don't think it's that bad, actually. I don't think you're gonna lose a whole lot. You're gonna lose a little bit of survivability from the potent warding. So you're falling basically below 85% max res. But I don't think it's absolutely mandatory. I think it's still a valid option. You have to check your attack speed breakpoints, obviously, if you hit a good attack speed breakpoint for that. But in general, I would say the Tarasha ring is not the super high-end ring because of... And it's really only for one reason. It's just because of the temper for the lightning spear cooldown reduction if you're playing this build, right? Because the cooldown reduction is extremely important, but lightning spear cooldown reduction is pretty much the same than regular cooldown reduction. It even rolls higher. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with playing that. Especially if you don't have a greater FX cooldown reduction Tarasha ring, right? So greater FX cooldown reduction Tarasha ring is a tiny bit worse than the temper for lightning spear cooldown reduction. So you're probably in the end even gonna have more cooldown reduction. Obviously it doesn't count for your unstable currents, but you know, that's min-maxing them again, right? I think it's 6.2 seconds, my lightning spear cooldown, somewhere around that. The ultimate doesn't count for your attack speed cap. And again, if you're playing Starless Skies, it's a different story, again. That's why it depends on your build, but no, it's not. Depends on your masterworking crits and everything, but unstable currents doesn't count into this cap, right? Unstable currents is a different attack speed cap, so 100% attack speed cap is without unstable currents. Unstable currents gives an extra 25% on top of it. But I mean, what else do you want to put on a ring, right? I mean, yes, you can put intelligence, but intelligence doesn't really do so much. Probably your ring is still going to be best with crit attack speed and crit damage. I mean, the Fist of Fate is not going to lower your lightning spear cooldown. I mean, it's going to produce more frozen orbs, of course. I mean, I have 57% cooldown reduction and 1 lightning spear cooldown reduction temper. I don't even know if the cooldown reduction max 75%. I think that's not... I think that's just for the regular cooldown reduction. So, I mean, this is also, like, not a very good roll, right? You can get way more than that. Yeah, you will lose a little bit, but in a boss fight you're still gonna have 100%, and outside of a boss fight it doesn't matter so much, honestly. Also, faster attack speed gives you more cooldown reduction on lightning spear, so I don't think it's gonna be a huge deal with the unstable currents. Again, it always depends which build variant. If you play Orange Herald on your pants, you're gonna have perma unstable currents anyway, for example. So really, it's really dependent on what build you're playing. But I think in general, it's not a terrible thing to play a second legendary ring outside of Tarasha. But if you're playing Starless Skies, like, if you're playing Starless Skies, you are casting Frozen Orbs, right? So, you're probably not there yet. where you need this super high-end cooldown reduction. Because if you're still casting frozen orbs, then you don't really need super high cooldown reduction. So I don't know, you might be doing it wrong. You might be playing Tal Rasha, you might be playing Starless Skies and not casting frozen orbs, and then it's gonna do absolutely nothing. Correct. So the attack speed breakpoint, I mean, you can look at the stream's description. I don't know the breakpoint. I think it's at 116% or so is the attack speed breakpoint, I believe. I don't know exactly. You can check in the description of the stream. There's the breakpoints. There's a link. If you can reach that breakpoint with that, then it's good. If you can't reach it, it doesn't make any sense to put that ring with attack speed, basically. I think it's 116%. 116.9, somewhere around that. No, I don't really see a reason to use 2 legendary rings unless you don't have Tal Rasha. I mean, I don't know. I would probably not do it. Because the general cooldown reduction just helps. I would only use it if I wouldn't have access to Tal Rasha. But if I had one, I would always use it. Well, with the Starless Skies, right? With the Starless Skies in that build, exactly. You reach exactly the cap if you Masterwork crit the Starless Skies twice, and you Masterwork and your gloves in that case. So I had Starless Skies and Tal Rasha in that build, right? And I had 2 Greater Affix, I had 2 Masterwork on Starless Skies, and I had 2 Masterwork on my gloves. And that is plus potion and unstable currents is exactly the breakpoint. That is correct. Well, Tal Rasha gives you a higher damage bonus, probably still a little bit. And it just gives you general cooldown reduction, which is just better than Lightning Spear cooldown reduction in the end. Lightning Spear cooldown reduction is good, but general cooldown reduction gives you, you know, your teleport, your flame shield, your ice armor. It works on everything. So there's definitely still a benefit of having normal cooldown reduction instead of Lightning Spear cooldown reduction. I'm not saying that it's like super important, but definitely you will have a slight edge with Tal Rasha there. It's not going to be a huge one. In the end, it's probably like somewhere around 10 to 15% of your damage or so, I would assume. Because you cannot get a forced Tal Rasha stack, right? So Tal Rasha is generally just a 60% damage increase. And if you use the legendary ring, you have the crit damage temper, which basically works together with your lightning spear. For me, I mean, it would give you... I think you would reach one more breakpoint, yes. But I don't feel like giving that away for my general cooldown reduction. You can reach one higher breakpoint with that. One higher breakpoint is essentially 5% more attack speed. I mean, will it be better? I don't think it will be better. I think it might just be equal. But you lose out on the general cooldown reduction, which in general gives you, you know, faster unstable currents, faster flame shield and stuff like that. So you basically lose a little bit of a utility. And I don't think you will end up with more damage. Probably gonna be like somewhere around the same amounts. But in the end, it's a very, very small difference in both variants, right? It's definitely both playable. if you would play those 2 rings, you would probably not even want to have the 22% attack speed. You probably would want to have... so, I mean, you would have to check for the breakpoint which one it is. But I would probably rather than not... Like, if I would play those 2 rings, right? I would not crit those attack speed values at all. I would just keep them at the 14.9. Or is it 16.9? I don't even know. And rather crit the lightning spear cooldown reduction, for example. That might be the way better solution there. I don't really see a benefit wasting all my masterwork crits on those attack speeds. Because the difference is going to be relatively small. The difference by using lightning spear cooldown reduction would probably be way more significant, honestly. I mean, I would have to calculate the numbers, but I think if you don't masterwork them, you're gonna end up at like somewhere around 30, right? With total. So I think it would be better to not even masterwork them. So 16.9% is the attack speed, right? So 2 unmasterworked rings give you 16.9% each, correct? So you would get, what is it, 33.8? And 33.8 plus 16.9 would be 40. Let's just make it 50, right? So it would be roughly 50. And then you add the 15%, you will be at 75. So you would be meeting the I think there's a breakpoint at 104 point something. So maybe you would want to have like 1 or 2 crits and then funnel the other crits in lightning spear cooldown reduction or critical strike damage. That would probably be the way if you want to play 2 legendary rings. Yeah, good luck with your wife. Take care. What is happening here? Something weird is happening. It's like latency, but it is not latency. Yeah, you never want to try to triple masterwork something. It's just, the process is just not gonna work. If you get lucky, you know what? Sure, but if not, screw it. Like, double is fine. I will never go for anything but double. Like, if I would double crit something and then reset the masterworking, I just could not do that. I mean, I know there's like the super min-maxers. I just couldn't do it. This was pretty easy. I don't know, these are like so different. Like, some of these are just so easy and some of these are just so difficult. Don't really get this. I think they also differ in the amount of hit points they have. Different factors in resetting lightning spear. What is this? Different factors in resetting lightning spear is there's basically 3. Well, let's make it 4. So this is actually quite complicated, right? So let me just try to explain it the most simple way. So your first factor is duration cooldowns are reduced by whatever seconds when a frozen orb explodes. That's the most important one. the second one is the lucky hit chance on your winter glass. These two are very important. So what happens is every time a frozen orb explodes, every time a conjuration hits, you have a 50 to 90% chance to launch a frozen orb. That frozen orb is then gonna launch. I'm just gonna make it 1.5 frozen orb because you have 24% chance here, and I have another 27 here. So I'm just gonna make it 50%, right? So I'm just gonna say every lightning spear, when it hits, has, in my case, 14% chance to launch 1.5 frozen orbs. Every frozen orb explodes 3 times. So I'm just gonna make it 4.5, right? So I'm just gonna say, in this case, every lightning spear has a 14% chance when it hits to give me 4.5 times a 0.6 seconds cooldown reduction. So that's the interaction, right? Conjuration have a lucky hit chance. They spawn frozen orb explodes. Explosion of frozen orb reduces your lightning spear cooldown. So that's the interaction there, how it works. And then the second part is the cooldown reduction you have. So my lightning spear has a base cooldown of 6.4 seconds, right? So you want to have the cooldown reduction of lightning spear as low as possible. So this reduction can basically kick in, right? So if you have a 12-second cooldown reduction, so if you have 12-second cooldown on lightning spear, then you basically need to explode double the frozen orbs to cast a new lightning spear. And the new lightning spear then will cast new frozen orbs. So it's like all kind of a chain reaction. So at some point where your lightning spear cooldown gets low enough, you're going to launch enough frozen orbs to get this crazy low cooldown reduction. That's basically the interaction there. Mythic uniques can drop everywhere, but the drop chance is very low. So I don't know the exact drop chances. I mean, in the outer world or like wherever, right? It's probably like somewhere around 0.00001% or whatever. So it's like a very low chance, but it can still happen. And then the regular Uber bosses have, I think, like 3%, and Uber Duriel has like 10%. I mean, Tormented, right? And I mean, you would only want to farm Tormented, right? This season, you don't want to farm regular boss. So the best chances for getting Uber Uniques is by far Uber Duriel and Uber Andariel. But Andariel just takes way longer to finish. So you want to basically farm Uber Duriel. Tormented Duriel, I mean. So level 200, whatever that is, right? What is this gloves anyway? Like, does it have any use? That is so terrible. I can see nothing this gloves would ever be used for. No, they don't. Uber Duriel has significantly higher drop chance for Uber Uniques. The other ones have like, I think like 3%, and Uber Duriel has like 10%. So the other basically have a good drop chance for Uber Uniques, but the one for like Tormented Duriel it's still double. So really, if you're looking for Uber Uniques, you want to still do Tormented Duriel. No, they changed that the other bosses have a higher chance, but they are not the same. Absolutely not. The other bosses used to be 1% and they increased it to 3%. That's kind of the story there. So they increased the chance on the other bosses, but it's still way less than for Tormented Duriel. It's also, you know, also nobody would be doing Tormented Duriel at all, right? Because the cost for doing a Tormented Duriel is like 10 times the cost of like a Tormented Zero or something like that. So the cost is significantly higher. So if you're probably looking for just the gold cost of summoning materials ratio to Uber Uniques dropped, probably like the other bosses are still better. I didn't make the mass, but it's probably gonna be like that. You're welcome, bro. Appreciate that. Luckily, I never have to farm Uber Duriel again this season. I'm already done with my Uber Uniques. No, I don't think that's true, bro. I don't know where you get that info. The Diablo patch notes for patch 1.5. I know they increased it, but I think it's still less than Duriel, and it would also, I mean, not explain why, because nobody would be farming Duriel at all. Like nobody would ever go Uber Duriel if it would be like that. So I kind of don't think that it's like this, but you know, maybe it's just a huge misunderstanding. But I didn't really read the patch notes. My assumption would be more than it's 1%, 1.5% total, and not per unique dropped. Because 7.5% on it just sounds a lot. But I mean, then it would be stupid to farm Uber Duriel. Like, why would people farm Uber Duriel? That guy has, like, no drop table. Well, I got two Uber Uniques from, like, Gregory or whatever that guy is called, but, you know, that's not really a sample set. Nah. Like, why would you do that? You just drop a perfect winter glass and you can sell it and you can buy 500 T-balls. So... Also, T-balls is not that good. Like, even, like, greater affixes on T-balls don't really matter at all. Like, yes, you can get a little bit extra damage reduction on that, but in general, I wouldn't hunt for, like, a greater affix T-balls, because there's really no really interesting T-ball, like, stats on there. And all the other stuff, Duriel drops, like, nobody uses any of these things. I mean, probably some, but I don't see the drop table of Duriel being interesting. And, like, an Uber Duriel summoning costs, like, significantly more than a zero summon. I mean, that's kind of strange, honestly. I mean, but I mean, maybe it is like this. Maybe I didn't read this properly. But then I wouldn't recommend to do Uber Duriel because it just costs like 3 times as much. No, farming Duriel mats is the most horrible. I mean, in general, right? I mean, I don't even know. Like, the blood you cannot really farm at all, right? You just have to buy it. Yeah, the easiest would be Beast and Ice. That's actually true. But I guess, like, the cheapest would be, like, Gregory. Because these, the steel costs basically nothing. Yeah, I mean, if you play Hell Tides, like, most players don't play Hell Tides anymore. Like, for example, I don't play Hell Tides anymore. It always depends if you really want to still play Hell Tides or not. I haven't been in Hell Tide for like a week. But if they really all have 7.5%, then it's probably not. I mean, it depends like this, right? I mean, if you farm like Gregory and Varshan, right, which both gives good drops, right? Varshan gives you the greater FX Tarasha ring if you want to farm them, and the Asus boots. So they are both valid to farm, and you know, in the end you just get the Dural runs basically for free, right? Because they just end up dropping those materials. So I guess from that point, Zir wouldn't be so good, but Zir drops the Winter Glass, which is the most expensive unique in the game. Yeah, I mean, why would you do Helltide? Like, what do you need out of Helltide, basically, right? I don't need anything out of Helltide, other than maybe rune shards for Infernal Hordes, for pits. But other than that, like, there's really nothing you want from Helltides. But you can just farm Infernal Hordes, it's way more efficient. It can also drop 2 blood. But also sometimes randomly, like, blood drops in Helltide, right? The Hellborns can randomly drop it. But it doesn't drop a whole lot. Like, that's actually correct. So if it's like 7.5%, I might just, you know, spam all my Gregory mats. And try to find one. Also, it's also an easy way to stack up on the white materials. Like, spamming the bosses fills your inventory with legendaries pretty fast, which you can then salvage. But yeah, I mean, if they really all have 7.5% drop chance, I guess, you know, you would just really run Duriel because you get the mats from the other bosses. I guess that kind of makes sense. But what I'm wondering is because in like the campfire they said we're gonna increase the other bosses, but Duriel is still gonna be the best. Kind of weird if it's not that. I mean, I guess the most number of legendaries per hour you will still find in Infernal Hordes. But I don't know, maybe I think Helltide is close to that. But it's just my feeling that, you know, if you really want to get as much greater FX items as possible, it would still be the item chest in Hordes. Yeah, but you know, getting Distilled Fear with Nightmare Dungeon carries, it's still not gonna be time efficient. Like, you're getting, what, like 3 per run or something like that? Do you get 3 per run? Yes, right? And you need how many for a Tormented Boss? 45? Is it 45? I don't even know how many. I think it's 9 times 5, right? You get 12? Okay. When is that? Okay. Are you sure you're getting 12 from a Nightmare Dungeon? Okay, that's actually interesting. That's not too bad, actually. Oh, 3 each. So you have to trade the... Yeah, okay. So so you have to trade the materials from the guys you are carrying, basically. I was thinking, like, you get 3 or 4 if you do it, like, solo. I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess. But that's nothing I would do. It seems like way too tedious. I've never seen that. I got my other character boosted for just gold. But yeah, it's I mean, it's definitely an option, right? I mean, 2.5 Nightmare Dungeons is like 7 minutes or something like that. I mean, it depends. Like, if you really, like, craft a lot of keys and you really pick the ones which are fast. Because most people who are carrying Nightmare Dungeons I have seen, they just run every sigil. They also run the very bad dungeons. And then it actually takes long. But if you actually, you know, take the time to craft the good sigils, then I guess it's pretty time efficient. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird, but, you know, I can understand it. It's just not my thing. I just buy these things off trade, really. I just find items, sell them. I feel like these farming techniques are little... I don't think they are as efficient as just, you know, naturally trading your gear. This drops a lot of greater FX items now, I feel like. After the hotfix or whatever it was. Oh, this is nice. Cooldown reduction. I have another one of these already in my stash. I still want to use that helmet. Haven't really found a good build with it yet. Maybe Arclish will do. It just depends on how much you run, right? If you run a lot of these Infernal Hordes tier 8, you get quite a few. Especially when I spammed the equipment chests, I got a many. I still got like some items I have to trade for like 10 to 20 billion. But since trading is disabled now anyway, I might as well just wait. Yeah, I mean, tier 7, if you don't need the knees iron, it's probably better than tier 8, right? I mean, I don't even know what will be better. I guess tier 7 you can go, like, brain AFK. Tier 8 you still have to be a little bit careful once in a while. Maybe somebody would want that. I wonder if I should keep... No, am I gonna do twin when I do my... No, I'm not gonna do Hydra build.
You can take what's left.
I don't know. I'm probably gonna do Chain Lightning. Then I wanna do like something with Andariels. I'm gonna make the next build tomorrow. Probably Chain Lightning. I don't know, Swornspot was pretty good last season, right? Isn't there a Swornsbarb anymore? I haven't seen one. They have like... I have a decent Meteor Helm, I guess. I mean, 5.2. I think you need one, which is a little lower still. But this is actually pretty decent. It has a good amount of intelligence on it as well. I mean, I guess with good cooldown reduction and ice blades and stuff like that, I think Meteor is not going to be too crappy at all. Like I have this one. This cries for selling it, but this also cries for playing Arglish. Yeah, that's good here. Or all just junk. I have like some weird items, like this one here. Or this one here. I mean, if somebody is playing overpower, this would be a decent ring, right? Well, anyway. I'm done for the day. So I will have a new build on Friday. The stream is going to be on Friday, and I will most likely have a Chain Lightning build. So... I mean, it's not going to be that strong because I'm going to refuse to play Lightning Spear aspect. I just want to really test the builds without Lightning Spear and how they perform. So I kind of have like an overall feeling of the performance of the builds, right? Yeah. You're welcome. Take care, guys. Again, Friday next stream.